From the brave souls studying lava up close, to the artists hand-making globes in the UK, we learned what it takes to master some of the world's most unusual jobs.
What you see and hear is a tree stump wrapped in leather. Foley artist Marco Costanzo of C5 Sound thought of this innovative combination when he had to make the noises for Manny the Mammoth in Ice Age. It helped capture the sound of a massive creature stomping on the ground. Marco needed to make sure he got an object that accurately captured not only this creature's weight, but also the pattern in which a creature of this size would walk, in this case, heel to toe. Foley artists use objects to create sounds based on a character's movements and interactions.
We have to make sounds that embellish their movements.
Marco's done Foley sounds for movies like Goodfellas, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and The Big Lebowski. But mimicking the sounds of animals isn't as easy as woofing or purring, though he can do that too. Picking the right sounds involves carefully examining both objects and surfaces. Take horses galloping, for instance. A pair of plastic coconut shells could certainly do the trick, but when it came time to make the horse sounds for a movie like 2010's True Grit remake,
I use rocks because you can hear the sound of the impact. When you're using coconuts, yeah, you might hear that little click, but when I use a rock, I hear boom, 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 boom. If you ever hear and ride a horse, you're hearing that 2,000, 5,000 pound animal on every footstep going boom, 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 boom.
While the plastic shells might work on cobblestones, Marco realized you can barely hear them in dirt, the surface the horses in True Grit were most likely to tread upon.
I'm not going to use the typical coconuts because there's no weight and you don't really even hear that cavity sound. These would be the medium size. Immediately you can hear a little bit more of the bottom end, right? And my favorite are the rocks. You're getting a low end thud right along with your crunchy.
An animal's size is a big factor, especially when that animal is tiny. Marco did the sounds for the dragonfly in the opening of 1997's Men in Black.
We were really playing with different kinds of paper and cards. I remember one of the ideas was, well, put a card in a bicycle spoke and spin it, and you'd hear the and everyone's like, yeah, great, but you hear the metal spoke. Well, and then the question was, well, how do we do that and not get it sound like metal? How do you get it sound organic like an animal?
Marco found the right sound using handheld fans. With the fans, Marco could more easily adjust the dragonfly's variation in movement by putting his finger on the blade. A different challenge arose when working on Marley and Me, which chronicles a dog's life from puppy to old age. Marco had to figure out how to make the dog sound different at different ages, so it wasn't just about size, but how an animal grows over time.
I have two different size nails on them. These are the smaller ones, and you can see there's bigger ones on that side. And they sound distinctively different. Listen to this one. These are the smaller ones. Now I would flip these around. I'm not going to flip right now.
Here's a younger, more excited dog. And the same dog at a much older age. And for some scenes, Marco had to layer a track for the dog's collar. For a bigger dog, Marco used a heavy chain. And a smaller dog has a smaller collar, so you just hear the tags.
So every time they're moving their head, you think they're so cute. Oh yeah, but they're non-stop noise.
It's not just a one-sound-fits-all type of deal. For gigantic animals, like that mammoth from Ice Age, Marco had to create multiple sounds and then have them layered to truly capture the physical scope of the character.
When we went to do a second track, picked up a bunch of grass, and at the same time we rolled this.
Then he added some pebbles and twigs to capture things the mammoth might be stomping on. There are plenty of other considerations that go through the mind of a Foley artist when making animal sounds, like how many animals there are.
If I was doing a single bird and it was flying, I'd be like, in rhythm. Fast, taking off. A flock of birds, I wouldn't even use feathers. I would probably use gloves for that.
When it comes to eating, Marco might need to think about whether the food is wet or dry, or whether the animal has a snout. For example, if it's a horse chewing celery.
I put my hands up to here because you get a little bit of a cavity there. And it's those cavities that sell the sound.
On some occasions, if a digital library won't do, he'll also have to do the vocals himself. To see a Foley artist's thought process about animal sounds in action, we put Marco to the test by showing him a stock video clip with no sound that he had never seen before.
Adorable. Oh boy, claws. Oh, yeah, this thing's... All right. That's definitely AstroTurf. You got a few tracks to do. Because you got the claw on the ground, you got the claw on the thing, you got the teeth on the mat, you got the body movement, the fur.
For the mat, Marco found one in his studio with very similar material.
We're going to do the paws first, and for paws we just need a pair of leather gloves.
For the lion's teeth, he used this small block of wood with nails drilled into it, which he created for the tiger in Life of Pi.
One more time. Gotta work on sync.
He brought back the wood block for the cub's scratching.
The claws, which are very similar to the teeth, they have different action. They were pulling at it. Here it's gripping. I have a few different varieties of fur here. We've got the AstroTurf. The cat is moving along it, so we're going to rub his body along the bottom as he pulls himself forward. Bring the mic real close. It's a very small sound. That'll be the most convincing sound, because all of a sudden you go from just an animal that's there moving around to you have the feeling of it against the floor. You feel its presence.
To top it all off, a few collar shakes and a few chews.
With this little guy, I'm only opening my mouth and doing like maybe 50% of the volume I could get, you know. Right now he's got a little tongue lick that we're gonna get a little bit of a slobbering sound. Remember, cat also has a dry tongue. It might be a little sandpapery, but you know, when it's on itself, it's just a...
Then, a Foley mixer watched the footage and layered it all together. So, what makes watching this without sound, and then with sound, different?
The sounds that we make brings you into the personality of the animal. You become closer to it. You want to give it a personality, you want to give the sounds a personality, and you can do it by its sound movements. That's what Foley artists do. We give detail.
Trained to protect themselves and the children in their care, Norland nannies are part of an elite. Often working for high-profile employers, they're expected to deal with potential threats, like kidnap attempts.
Unfortunately, I have had an experience where a man tried to take the little girl that I used to look after. I said, "You need to give her back," and he said, "No," and so I just had to pull her off of him whilst holding onto the buggy where her baby brother was. It is scary, but that's why I think parents hire Norlanders, because we are given that extensive training for these worst case scenarios, because actually the big wide world is very scary and you are looking after their most prized possession.
No. Shaking, your hands are shaking.
Got the adrenaline going.
In the career they've chosen,
No!
a lot of them don't realise what they're capable of, but after getting them into this, they really do come out of themselves.
It takes 4 years to become a fully qualified Norland nanny. 3 years of study, followed by a year's placements with a family. And it's more expensive than studying at Oxford or Cambridge University. But the idea is that their qualification will soon start paying off.
Within a year, they're actually averaging about 40,000 a year. So that's a young person in their early 20s, probably earning more money than perhaps an up-and-coming accountant or lawyer.
With the nannies earning that kind of money, skills like cooking and sewing have to be at the highest level.
When I was on my residential placement, the family had such a varied diet. They were really into like satay chicken, and we had lemongrass chicken a lot, so a lot of like, Pan-Asian flavours, and it was really nice to see.
So you place your nori with the shiny side down.
These third-year students are learning how to make child-friendly sushi.
And then you're using the bamboo mat to roll your sushi up.
I really don't enjoy cooking, to be honest, and so the lessons have been really, really helpful for myself, as I am not a confident cook.
The students do 3 years of sewing with us alongside their BA, and they work through a series of 6 projects developing their machine and hand sewing skills.
Yes, of course.
It could be just doing name labels and buttons are things that, you know, a family or all families need. But going on to making things that for their charges, their children might have ideas and they'll make things with them or for them.
Is it an undoable knot?
I hope so.
Bouncy. But this carriage pram would take a child up to about 2.5 years of age. So do we remember what this is called?
That's the apron.
The apron, absolutely. And you don't use that when you're inside because it could make the baby too hot.
The students also learn how to prepare an old-fashioned pram.
Remember, with carriage prams, you don't have to do hospital corners, but you just want to make it as tidy and neat as you possibly can in the pram.
Norland nannies still use these today, in college and in the workplace.
Remember, attention to detail is really important, so make that look neat and tidy.
But Principal Dr. Janet Rose wants to modernise the image both of the college and of the nannying profession. Knowing how to control a car in skid is just one of the skills a modern-day Norland nanny can offer clients. Norland College was founded by Emily Ward nearly 130 years ago. Her aim was to encourage a better and more educated class of women to enter the ranks of domestic service.
So here we have the very first probationers, all the way back in 1892, the very first students at Norland. And here we have a photograph of one of our Norlanders who worked for the Greek royal family.
Back then, nannies had to wear nurses' uniforms to differentiate themselves from the household servants. Puffed sleeves and pinafores were replaced over time by a modest beige dress, brown bowler hat and brogues, and white cotton gloves. Nannies are still required to be immaculate and abide by strict rules. Smoking is banned, as is buying alcohol, fast food, or even a takeaway coffee.
I definitely found the uniform really appealing. I think there's something about wearing this uniform, you know, you represent 125 plus years of heritage, and this uniform means a lot. It means that we're highly trained and we're really passionate about doing what we do.
The college wants to attract more diverse, more international students. Norland is also taking on university status.
Soon we will become Norland University and will be the first specialist early years university in the world.
But for Freya, becoming a Norland nanny isn't about pay or prestige, it's about a passion for the job.
I want children to learn because they want to, I want them to explore because they want to, and be curious about the world. And for me, seeing that is the most rewarding thing ever. That's more rewarding than any paycheck I could ever get. Seeing a child exploring, being curious, wanting to learn, wanting to grow, that's just so incredible.
Which sounds, for parents who can afford it, practically perfect in every way.
Move, 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 move! In the car, stay down to it. Go, 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 go!
If you're getting into this job, you should be ready. Your life may be coming behind your clients.
You need to be someone who is at least potentially prepared to put yourself at great risk. A lot of times when you say bodyguard, people think of somebody who's enormous, but this is a thinking person's game. Being able to maintain calm in all sorts of situations, think on your feet and adapt to change constantly. A highly qualified executive protection agent, they'll make anywhere from $100,000, they can make over $200,000 easily. My name is Ken Bombays, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Global Threat Solutions. My firm has been contracted to provide services by celebrities, entertainers, corporate executives of all types, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, President Obama. We've worked for all of them. Obviously, the primary goal is to keep our principal, we call them, or our client safe. But there's so much more than that. So what we're offering is a 3-day executive protection career course and include everything from classroom to practical exercises that actually include real role players that will be executives. They're gonna have to do an entire mission from the beginning to the end. A large percentage of executive protection agents come from either military backgrounds or law enforcement backgrounds.
My name is Jose. Currently, I'm an active law enforcement officer in northern New Jersey, specifically a homicide detective.
My name is Joseph Gelling. I'm a former reconnaissance Marine.
I really like the military community for executive protection agents. This job is very demanding. It could be long days. You have to maintain flexibility constantly, adapt to change, and the military background really lends itself to that. We obviously want somebody who's physically fit. That's a requirement. But you do not have to be 260 pounds and 6'4". Absolutely not. If you were to look at many details that are out there working for different clients around the country, you'll see few people like that. There is a lot of classroom. People need to know the fundamentals, the basics of executive protection.
We're going to describe what actions each person's going to take, how he's going to move around the venue.
We'll go over the roles and positions of an executive protection team. There's many positions within a team, and there's different types of formations. You would see what we call a diamond formation. It provides complete 360 coverage of a principal.
It's utilized more in high threat environments and or open areas.
But here in the States, we will often tone down those formations. They don't want the visibility of it. The client wants people not to even know they have security. So they'll distance themselves a little more from the client.
Sometimes you might think, oh, like I'll just be attached to his hip at all times and nobody will ever touch him. But you have to be okay with him maybe having to go into the bathroom on his own, especially if it's a female. You're not going into that bathroom with them.
Many of the details that we provide for executives, for instance, will be 1 or 2 people, a driver and 1 agent.
VIPs do not want to be bothered with any family issues. Don't talk, don't be heard.
Normally you're flying a wall.
Let's just say we're walking from point A to point B and we mess up a formation. He doesn't know what that formation is. You just got to be seamless.
We're going to be practicing arrivals and departures, strong side drops and pickups. You go to the door to crack it. The minute he's cracking the door, that's when you step in over here.
When they're exiting that vehicle or exiting a venue and getting into a vehicle, that is definitely one of the most vulnerable parts of the work we do.
You're going to be like, sir, can you follow me? Now you lead, you flow behind them. You're the primary now. Now you have like a 3-man detail covering the principal.
In our training scenarios, I will be playing the adversary or bad guy, and I will be using this weapon. They're very realistic. It actually sounds real and it actually looks real. The only difference is this little orange tip, this thing that signifies that it's a toy.
The next scenario, we have the team bringing up our VIP. He's got a little lecture he's going to be giving in front of a crowd of people.
This one. Yeah.
One member handled the threat, the rest of the team got the client off the X.
When we have to get the principal off the X, it means get them out of a certain scenario as quickly and seamlessly as we can.
It's definitely a little different because as a Marine, you see it in all the commercials, you run towards the sound of danger.
Sometimes we have to retrain people for this because people who have worked in law enforcement and military, their natural inclination might be to go towards a threat. In executive protection, we want to just get away as fast as possible.
They're not here for the battle.
This is a thinking person's game. This is not a brute force game. We need people who can think on their feet, make quick decisions, adapt to changes, and get the mission done.
You always have to have your eyes everywhere, just make sure there's no threats or anything like that.
In this field, we have thought of all that before an incident takes place.
That's why you have that guy that goes the day before, looks for everything, looks out for exits, look out for entrances, talks to people that are from the building.
The advanced site visit or planning before a mission is what will set you up for success.
So you got one exit over there,
and you have one more other exit when you walk outside.
We know far more than the principal knows about every place they're going, how we're going to enter, who will be there, the points of contact. Even if things do arise, changes last minute, you'll be able to adapt much easier than if you have not done that proper planning. Final culminating practical exercise is critical because we get to see all the skills they learned during the course in play, and I have all my instructors monitoring them from a distance.
The weather is a little rainy, but if you like rain, we're going to be getting in this first vehicle. So we're going to basically walk them right out front, put them right into the vehicle, seat them, let them know we're going next, ask if he needs anything, and that's it. Should be smooth sailing.
Their schedules are often very demanding. Not only their minutes and hours, their seconds are worth a lot of money. So it's our job to make sure they get where they're going safely and in a timely manner.
They're pulling away, we lost them at the light, but it's like, they're still gonna make sure they get to where they need to be. Nothing is ever gonna happen how you plan it. You need to be able to adapt and have contingencies for each and every plan and course of action.
Jose, you read me?
We lost service. But, you know, it's not the end of the world. If we can't tell the advance that we're gonna be there in 2 minutes, and like, he knows we're coming. I told him 10 minutes out, so he can prepare for that time.
If one guy, not that he messes up, but goes a different route, you got that guy that's gonna come in and say, all right, I got you. Go do what you have to do. I'll come and take care of it.
Trying to stay close to where we could react if something were to happen or if they needed us, but far enough away and trying to look as inconspicuous as possible.
Stretch like you're doing, because you might be in front of that door for 3 hours.
I think the initial draw might be an inaccurate one for some people when they hear the term bodyguard. Wow, this is exciting. This is the career I want to get into. And it can at times. However, there's a lot of standing in hallways. There's a lot of watching people for countless hours. It could be boredom could be your greatest enemy.
You spend so many hours of just what seems like nothing until that something happens. You need to always stay vigilant.
I did not notice they did this first time. In fact, I thought they were professional and thorough throughout their entire drill. Every single step. They were 5 steps ahead of us, making sure we are well taken care in terms of security, protection, and convenience.
So I thought today went great, the practical exercise from beginning to end. It was great to see that the agents, first of all, were prepared, but also we were able to see them react to some challenges where they would have to react on their feet, and it wasn't part of the plan.
The hardest part of the practical is making sure everybody's on the same page.
Guys were on point, they knew what to do, the communications, which is key, it went down pretty well.
In this exact course, there's no one here that I wouldn't hire for our company to do protection services. There's a great group of people.
In this world, all these people with money, they have high expectations, and you need to live up to them. You can't make excuses.
If you make that one single error, you're done. You got to be on your A game at all times. You know, these are high clienteles who expect the best and want the best.
Ray has worked as a hand model for 10 years now. To keep his hands camera ready, Ray moisturizes his hands 30 times a day and gets at least 2 manicures a week. But what is it that makes Ray's hands so special? Well, for one, Ray's complexion is ideal for editing.
We all have a variety of different complexions, so mine works really well. I guess it's ambiguous in post. They can lighten it or they can darken it.
Ray's hands are also the perfect size.
So what keeps me working a lot is actually that my hands are rather big, but not too big. I can grab a phone, especially today's phones. My hand looks natural holding them. They don't look too small, they don't look too big. It actually seems like it's the perfect hand for the phone.
But you need more than just the right hands. You need to know how to use them. Hand modeling is harder than it looks.
Sometimes you're asked to do some like really funky positions that are totally unnatural, but on the camera looks natural, looks perfect, and that's all that matters.
Which means that shoots can be physically taxing, especially when hand models are asked to hold objects up for long periods of time. Shoots can sometimes last up to 12 hours, and models can find themselves in uncomfortable positions under hot lights and intense scrutiny.
Like having your hands up like this for a second, no biggie. 10 minutes though, it starts to wear on you.
But Ray has some tricks up his sleeve when it comes to giving his best during a shoot.
In between takes, I keep my hands up to have the blood circulate down so that I don't have too many veins in my hands, so that when I bring it in for the shot, it's a less veiny hand. Sometimes stop motion, you gotta be really, really still and do these very subtle adjustments. One of my early mess ups was definitely drinking coffee for a video shoot. That's not good, because then when it came really, it was like, oh, it was shaky, and I had to like put all my zen into that moment. So, especially when I'm doing video or anything like that, I try not to have coffee.
And when Ray's not on shoots, he spends a lot of time doing this, moisturizing.
Whew, if I had to count how many times I moisturize a day, 30 times a day? I have lotion all over my house in the places where I know to remind myself, you should moisturize right here. Some people talk about lotions and oils. I particularly like oil. Our bodies naturally have oils, so putting on a really great organic oil adds to that natural oil, and it's just really great for like skin rejuvenation, skin hydration, and just all around.
Ray also has a go-to manicurist who makes sure his nails are in tip-top shape before each shoot.
So this is my manicurist, Erica.
Hi.
We're here in Washington Heights, and she is the one who is behind the amazing nails that I do for many of my shoots.
In addition to his skincare regimen, Ray takes a lot of precautions when it comes to protecting his hands. This means putting SPF on before going outdoors and straight up avoiding cats.
I can't be around cats. Their claws are just too sharp. They'll go, yeah, and you're like, oh, okay, that didn't get me, and then you'll look back and blood will just be gushing out of you like, ah, I'm a hand model. And you think the cat will understand. No. Another thing that is an absolute don't as a hand model is washing dishes, at least without gloves. The soap or detergent can be too rough on the skin.
Protecting your hands is extremely important because any blemish or scratch could result in a lost job, but makeup can sometimes save the day.
One time I ended up having a cat bite. Everything's good. But what I ended up doing, I take the little concealer and I just put it down here, just making sure that your color and skin complexion all blends good.
When it comes to getting paid, a weekly salary isn't guaranteed. Models are essentially freelancers who are paid per job. Day rates can range from $150 to $1,500 or more. Ray says that he's earned up to $4,000 for a single job before. And sometimes, jobs come up at the last minute.
It's one of those things that literally you can get a call the next day and say, hey, you're booked. You might have had something going on the day before, especially like if you had a job, or for actors, a callback. If you're booked the next day, then you gotta go.
The amount of work can fluctuate week to week. But since Ray has been working as a hand model for 10 years, he generally books 2 to 3 jobs a week now, earning him over $75,000 this past year as a hand model.
I'm still shocked because nobody says or aspires to say, you know what, I want to be a hand model when I grow up. You know, it's almost weird, but then you take pride over it. You know, you start seeing your hands all over the place. You see it on billboards, you see it on magazines, you see it on buses, and just all over the place. So yeah, you take pride over it.
Every round in this rifle could save a bird's life. The splash of the bullet scares migrating species off this mile-long toxic lake in Montana. If birds land there for more than a few hours, the acidic water cooks them from the inside out. It's Mark Mariano's mission to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yep, Mark Mariano, Waterfowl-Protection Specialist. We invented that title, but it fits.
He uses a multi-million-dollar arsenal of high-tech tools to keep birds off of what used to be a copper mine in Butte, Montana.
This is the one everybody likes to see, though. Do you get to fly the drone? That's what they always say. No.
What's now a toxic bird bath started out as an open pit mine 65 years ago. But in 1982, the company that owned the mine shut down the water pumps. Groundwater started to seep in, creating sulfuric acid that leached metals out of the rock. People have been shooing birds off the Berkeley pit ever since. And some of the methods they've developed here could help protect the estimated hundreds of millions of birds killed by industrial activity every year. Snow geese, avocets, and grebes are just a few of the species that stop in Butte on their journey north in spring and south in fall. And Mark loves them all.
And your widgeon, teal. I mean, I dream, sleep, eat, and poop, ducks. We obviously went over the top with the wildlife decor. My mom bought me this one and I told her it was stupid, and now I love it.
But the sounds that repel birds are more unnatural.
So we're gonna move it over. There it goes. Always when you're trying to talk.
The first line of defense is 4 so-called wailers. They randomly play a series of alarms to annoy the birds.
You can hear these things on a nice warm summer night all across Butte.
And propane cannons hooked up to timers fire all day.
They mimic gunfire, which a lot of the birds are scared of for obvious reasons.
On special occasions, the birds might get their own private fireworks display.
This is a kind of a last resort, or we know, something big would be coming. We've used them twice.
One of Mark's favorite tools is meant for spotting the birds before they get wet.
It's a $5,000 Swarovski scope.
But after nearly 4 years on the job, he can usually spot them with the naked eye.
Can you see them? No. I'm going to keep laying on them, because if we can keep them from landing, that's always the best.
HQ is this small hut, along the same ridge where the mine's dispatcher used to direct trucks. They call it the Bird Shack.
We've discussed renaming it something more professional sounding than Bird Shack, but it's become such kind of a colloquial term that we kept it.
During peak season, someone like Mark comes up here every hour to do what they call hazing. That's the technical term for annoying birds that land on the pit, so they fly away.
We got a group coming in.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And it looks like more shelvers.
So there's 33.
2, 3, 43.
When they first started scaring off birds 30 years ago, their only tools were a rifle and a clipboard. They didn't even have heat during the long Montana winters. For the most part, it worked. Even if the miners' records looked like a real-life game of duck, duck, goose. That changed in 2016. Snow geese migrate through Montana every year, but that November, an estimated 60,000 of them landed on the pit.
Essentially, the entire snow goose population of our flyway came overnight, hit a nasty storm, and ended up using the worst rest stop that they possibly could. This could be myth now, but they shot the gun so many times the barrel essentially curved because it got too hot.
About 3,000 birds died in a matter of days, according to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Those guys choke up when they, you're a burly miner talking about coming out here and seeing, thousands of snow geese on there.
After that, the companies working to clean up the pit brought in experts to devise a more scientific approach. The researchers discovered that the pit attracts over 50 bird species, not just ducks and geese. The companies invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into fancy high-tech tools, but many didn't work. It turns out that each kind of bird responds differently.
With each of the technologies, as well as the simple stuff, a combo of them can help sometimes. And then usually one will pick up where the other leaves off.
The aerial drone is most effective when birds land on ice or the shore, where there's a risk a bullet could ricochet. Mark's high-powered laser works well on American coots and other species that like to migrate at night. In 2016, they custom-built drones just for the pit. Early prototypes combined 3D printed parts with boogie boards and kid-sized kayaks.
So they're at your 10 o'clock.
Today, technicians use a remote control to operate what they call the water dog.
Here's the group. Oh, they probably went out of your view to the left a little bit now.
Sometimes the boat gets the birds to lift off. Then a rifle shot gets them to fly away. This new and improved suite of tools has a near-perfect record of keeping birds off this deadly human-made mess. Successful programs like the one at the pit are more important than ever. Nearly a third of North America's bird population has disappeared since 1970. Mining is to blame for destroying habitat, but some cleanup efforts have worked, just not always in the way people expect. For a prime example of that, you need to travel about 20 miles downstream. Every year, hundreds of thousands of birds stop here, the Warm Springs Wildlife Management Area. It's where researchers Stella Kaposha and Gary Swant come to count birds.
Oh, we've got some American habitats.
These scientists helped design the pit's upgraded protection program.
The reports that we do here on Mondays and Wednesdays are posted in the bird shack, so these miners have a good predictive instrument of what might be in the pit. So here's a cinnamon teal that you probably haven't seen one of those yet this year.
During peak season, Gary's grandson also helps with the count.
We'll usually peak at like 50,000, 60,000 birds in the valley, and those are long days. Those are like 10-hour days.
The team comes to Warm Springs because it's a biodiverse haven that has hosted more than half of Montana's bird species. But just like the Berkeley Pit, it was created by humans.
This is a constructed area that now has then turned into a preserve for the wildlife.
In 1908, a flood washed mining waste from Butte into local waterways. It killed fish and made the water unsafe for humans. After that catastrophe, these ponds were built so that hard metals could seep out of the water before they run downstream. Giant hoppers neutralize the water with lime. That keeps things clean and safe enough for wildlife.
So the event happened in a single month in 1908, and here we are still getting it cleaned up. Feels wonderful because we can correct the problems of the past.
Experts caution that it's impossible to erase over 100 years of mining pollution. But with people like Gary, Stella, and Mark on the job, the future for Montana's birds might be looking up. But not if you're a wild turkey.
I am by no means a seasoned turkey hunter, so this is my very first. But we saved everything.
Mark takes pride in not letting anything go to waste.
I made it real traditional, like a chicken noodle soup. It's even gluten-free, if you can believe that.
Has anyone ever pointed out to you the irony of the fact that your entire job is to keep wild birds safe and you go hunting?
I'm a big waterfowl hunter as well, and what that has taught me about protecting the waterfowl at the pit is just priceless. I wake up without an alarm every morning, and I'm, happy to go, literally rescue birds. And most days you walk home, with your head held high.
If someone asks why it's so expensive, I invite them along to the studio and show them around and show them the processes we go through at every single level. When they leave, they fully understand why it takes so long.
Peter Bellerby founded London's Bellerby & Co. Globemakers in 2008, and today it's one of the only studios in the world making globes by hand. The smallest globe it sells, the 12cm diameter pocket globe, can set you back almost $2,000. Its largest, the Churchill, has a 127 centimetre diameter and costs over $94,000. Since 2008, Bellerby has sold around 5,000 globes, ranging from maps of the Earth to the constellations and even the Moon. 3 of those were featured in Martin Scorsese's Hugo, including a 40 centimetre celestial globe. Production is limited because making a globe from scratch, entirely by hand, is no easy feat. At Bellerby, it requires cartographers, globe makers, painters and woodworkers. And the price of these globes is largely a reflection of how many the team can make without compromising quality. The attention to detail starts with the spheres. Most sizes are made from fiberglass for its strength and durability. But what's most important is that it's a perfect sphere. Any deformation can result in uneven weight distribution, which affects how the globe spins. If that happens, Bellerby has to fix it by attaching a counterweight. Then there are the maps themselves. The cartography department focuses on accuracy and fulfilling the customer's imagination, like adding the Silk Road or the spice routes.
They highlight the places where they came from and where they might have immigrated to and where they got married and where their ancestors are from.
But Bellerby doesn't just customise its maps for creative or sentimental reasons. The details also affect where the company can sell its globes.
For instance, in India, I can actually go to prison for 6 months if I ship a globe to India that doesn't have the correct border between India and Pakistan.
And if any territories shift or new borders are drawn, Bellerby's newer iterations will reflect that. When the cartographers are done with all the necessary specifications, they print the map onto oblong strips called gauze. Now it can be handed off to globe makers like Eddie.
So with globe making, it's all about applying 12 or 24 gauze onto the sphere. So it all starts with cutting those gauze very, very precisely with a scalpel.
Makers have to cut the gauze to within 0.1 of a millimetre, so there are no gaps or overlaps when they're applied.
You could very easily cover an entire country based on the amount that you've extra overlapped because you've cut a little bit too much excess.
Eddie traces the latitude and longitude lines onto the sphere as guides. Then, he wets the gauze and glues them onto the surface, gently flattening them by hand. Even the slightest tension or miscalculated movement can cause a rip or wrinkle. When globe makers do make mistakes, they have to scrape off and replace the offending gore. If they're lucky, they'll only need to remove one, but sometimes the team has to redo the entire globe, including the cartography.
A lot of the times it does result in the globe being restarted, and that can even be at the final stage just before it's being packaged. While that doesn't happen often, when it does, you know, everybody's upset, but it's just the only way that we can maintain a really high quality standard.
Correctly setting a single gore onto the massive Churchill globe can take an hour. Aside from size, factors like the temperature in the room or the consistency of the glue affect application time. The globe maker has to account for all of this, including their own breathing.
I found that cold showers actually help a lot with controlling breath, and that's really improved my making actually.
It takes up to 18 months for trainees to learn the most basic aspects of globe making, and much longer to master it. Eddie has been on the job for 6 years. When the gauze are finally set, the globe is ready for the painters, like Isis. She can bring the Earth, the Moon, or the constellations to life. She shades in the coastlines, mountain ranges, political borders, and any illustrations or customizations.
The difficulty on this stage is actually making all these gores the same color and consistent. It's almost like if you're making a painting, but you have 12 different canvases, and there has to be a continuation.
Some globes highlight different ocean depths, so Isis has to paint in ocean trenches in their exact location. She works deliberately, being careful not to paint neighbouring countries the same shades, or let any watercolour run from one gore to the next. That's another mistake that risks having to start the whole globe all over again. At the woodshop, artisans are working on a base for the nearly complete Churchill globe. It's all done in-house by a dedicated team of 4. They engrave, chisel, and stain the wood based on customer specifications. At every stage of the globe-making process, Peter encourages his team to take as long as they need.
It's very important that we spend the time that is required to make every single globe as best as it can be. It's finished when it's finished and when it's ready.
The cost of labour accounts for most of the price, since it usually takes 4 to 6 months to complete a globe and ship it out. But Bellerby also pays attention to the materials it uses. The inks it uses for printing can last between 80 and 200 years in gallery conditions. The origin story of Bellerby globes is just as peculiar as the globes themselves. In 2008, Peter decided to make a globe for his father's 80th birthday. He went through hundreds of globes and thousands of pounds before he was happy with the result.
In about 2011-12, I sold my house to fund, because this is a bottomless pit of money. I used to go down to the municipal dump every 2 weeks with an estate car full of trial globes.
And once he got it right, he wanted to keep making them. But Peter didn't expect the warm reception these boutique globes received. The company was recently commissioned to work on a globe for the Louvre, and its largest globe has a waitlist of 2 years. Peter attributes this demand to the rise of consumer interest in handmade products. The global handicraft market size reached $680 billion in 2021 and is expected to exceed $1 trillion by 2027. Bellerby & Co. too has seen this consistent rise in demand for its handmade globes. The company says it turns multi-million-dollar revenues year after year. And it expects this to continue, even at high price points for its niche products.
What I love so much about what we do is that it is so deeply personal. You can tell someone's whole life story in it.
We went to the Smithsonian to see how one specimen in the skins collection is added, prepared, and used for generations to come. It starts with acquisition.
It says here on the label that this ostrich was sent by King Menelik as a present to President Roosevelt.
Specimens are usually donated by people or organizations. This California condor was donated by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. This bird came from President Theodore Roosevelt's personal collection, and this Cooper's hawk died while crashing into a building window. It was donated back in 2017 and is about to get its spotlight in an upcoming exhibit. But it was initially stored in this freezer.
So it's on a left shelf. Ta-da!
From there, our hawk is taken up to the prep lab into the skilled hands of museum specialists like Christina and her husband, Brian.
Brian, did you do that?
Yes, I did put the cotton in the mouth.
Married couple spat.
This specimen is 9,926, so I've prepared at least that many birds and mammals. When you're at about 10,000, it shows that you've been doing it for at least probably 20 years or so.
And you can do it blindfolded.
It was a fun exercise, and it actually worked.
Blindfolded or not, the specialists first thaw, weigh, and measure the hawk. And then they pick up a scalpel to start separating the skin from the muscles and fat.
Since these are going to be stored as dried specimens, we want to remove as much of the muscle from the specimen that we can.
Brian removes the skin from the body of the bird, discarding the soft tissues and oil glands, which would cause the specimen to rot. And it's crucial to get every piece of fat out without damaging the skin, since these specimens are meant to last for years to come. That's where gentler tools, like his hands, become useful.
You have to go very slow, methodical, to get the skin off without ripping it. I'm pushing the skin rather than pulling it, so I'm not stretching it.
Brian also uses corncob dust throughout the process to absorb any body fluids so the specimen is kept clean.
New people use a lot less dust, and more experienced people just cover it with dust.
When removing the smaller parts of the bird, like the head or the eyes,
the angle of the scalpel also makes a big difference. If you notice, I'm cutting away from the skin. There's been times where when you grab the eye, it squirts at you.
Sometimes birds that have more fat on their skin need to go through additional cleaning.
All this white goopy stuff, this is all fat. That needs to come off, otherwise it will get rancid, and then it will acidify, and then it will literally just ooze out of the skin.
They use this fat wheel machine to remove all the fat until you can see the feather tracks.
This is takes a little bit of practice, because if you press too hard, you will rip the skin.
Once the fat is cleared, more corncob dust is used to absorb the moisture, and then the specimen is washed and dried.
Do you want to see me blow the sawdust off? Okay. All right. So with this, we do it in the fume hood, because as you'd imagine, I'm going to blow a lot of dust everywhere.
Christina uses a forced air dryer to blow off the sawdust and a hair dryer to fluff up the feathers, adding a nice sheen to them. To get the bird presentation ready, Brian will first tie the wings together to create a limited range of motion. He approximates how far a Cooper's hawk would have naturally spread their wings.
So in the future, if somebody grabs the bird and opens up the wing to see the underside of the wing, by tying it, it'll make the specimen stronger.
Now the specimen is ready to be stuffed with cotton, recreating its original shape.
We're trying to make a specimen that lasts forever and is strong. So I'm not a tailor or a seamstress, but I can sew up a bird pretty good. We get the feathers, make sure that they're arranged properly in the right order, so that'll assist researchers later.
The last step is pinning the bird onto a board to dry into its permanent position.
However I end up pinning it, that's the way it's going to look the rest of its career at the Smithsonian. It takes probably close to 100 birds before somebody can go at it alone. Once they reach 1,000 birds, then we say that that person is generally an experienced preparator, and they can teach other people very well.
After 10 or so days, this Cooper's hawk will be completely dried and ready to debut on the exhibit floor. The hawk will be just one of 20 specimens on display for the Lights Out exhibit, all birds who have died from flying into skyscraper windows. And they'll eventually join the larger skins collection with over 470,000 specimens, helping researchers from all around the world. Like Lauren and Joshua, researching how mating between domestic and wild ducks has changed the size and structure of their bills. Or Jim, with the Feather Identification Lab team. He works with government agencies to identify birds killed during airstrikes.
We get about 10,000 strikes a year. The busiest times are in the fall and the spring, and this place, the Division of Birds, is the perfect place for us to be because we have 80% of the world's bird species represented in this collection. So if there's a bird strike that happens in the world, we likely have a specimen to match it up to. This is a bird strike sample, the remnants of a bird-aircraft collision that has been sent to us for us to identify. So I can see that we've got a couple wing feathers here, we've got a tail feather, we've got some body feathers. So we can actually take this feather out and match up these tail feathers quite well to the barn swallow. And we've got even these nice little peachy feathers that we're doing this.
His findings are sent to airfield biologists and engine manufacturers to adjust aircrafts and reduce accidents.
This bird was collected back in 1878, and so this bird was collected before airplanes were even imagined and put into this collection. And now we're using it to identify a bird-aircraft collision. So we never know what these specimens are going to get used for, but that's really why it's important to keep them forever.
A separate wings collection also helps for deeper analysis of feathers.
Back in the old days, they didn't make too many spread wings or flat skins, and us in the Feather Lab really like that because it allows us access to feathers that occur under the wing and access in different areas of the bird where we might get a feather to, but it's very difficult to get into a traditional museum skin.
Other researchers might be exploring the microbiomes found in the wings, like Gary. He discovered that vulture wings have a bacterial group called Deinococcus, one of the toughest organisms that can withstand high radiation.
So when I expose this wing into full sun, the temperature on a day like today would be 90 degrees outside. In about 3 minutes, the temperature on the surface of this wing heats up to over 160. And that probably explains why Deinococcus is so dominant, because it's one of the few bacterial groups that can actually reproduce.
At the Smithsonian, these are just 2 of the collections within the bird division. There's also the organ collection, soaked in ethanol for preservation, the skeletons with each bone meticulously numbered, and mounted birds that retired from being on the exhibit floor. All of these are timestamps of the present bird population, creating a record for future generations of researchers.
When the first bird preparators prepared birds, they had no idea what DNA was. Even though they didn't know that, by doing a consistent bird prep, it has enabled future researchers to conduct research on birds.
This huge furnace behind me is Syracuse University's personal volcano and brainchild of an unlikely scientist and artist duo.
That's Professors Jeff Carson and Bob Vysotsky, and they didn't feel like waiting for a volcano to spit up lava. So they decided to make their own.
The project originated really when Bob came into my office and said he wanted to make lava. I thought that was pretty crazy, a suggestion at that time. But the more we talked, the more we saw that he had a really good idea of what needed to be done.
And the first thing that needed to be done? Figure out what to make the lava in, which is where this came in. The tilt furnace is really the statement piece of the whole operation. It can hold hundreds of kilos of lava and execute experiments about viscosity, morphology, structures, and formations. But she's a little bit finicky when it comes to lava making.
The furnace literally melts itself and tears itself apart over a very short period of time.
These were originally made to melt bronze and aluminum, but the Lava Project has repurposed one of them to melt up to 800 pounds of billion-year-old basaltic rock shipped all the way from Wisconsin. The process takes hours. Bob and his team pile the rocks into a receptacle called the crucible, turn up the furnace, and gradually bring the rocks up to temperature.
We were doing just lava and melting the stuff. The furnace would be on about medium, and we would just never turn it down or up.
What temperature?
It just runs. Medium is a sound out there that I hear the flame. I can adjust the furnace blindfolded and tell you what it's doing, and it's all sound. There's just a butterfly valve in here, and
oh, you can hear it.
That's it.
We looked this up later. Medium is also somewhere between 2,000 and 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit. So pretty darn hot, which means these scientists really have to suit up. These suits made of aluminum can withstand radiant heat up to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
We used to wear welding leathers, but it dries out from the heat. When you start to smell barbecue, because it's pig skin, you knew that you were too close to something because you're cooking, your clothing is cooking.
How do you know you're too close with these guys?
You don't.
You don't?
These are the spats, the apron, which I wear around my waist, the jacket, which, put your arms out, right? Because you don't need it in the back.
No, it's
right?
like campfire style.
Exactly,
Back
and it's
having
just
is
that.
Cool, that's warm.
So there's that, and then the helmet, it looks like it's a regular tinted thing like sunglasses, but this is 24 karat gold. That is this sheet of it.
What is it about the gold? Is it just the reflective quality?
It's so highly reflective, and it's why you see satellites and stuff, why they have the, the gold foil on.
And this is really similar to some of the stuff that like volcanologists would use in the field, right?
Same stuff.
Yeah, but maybe with a back?
They have a back on it.
Yeah, in case the volcano's behind them. Do you want to show us how it works?
Yeah, let's go talk about this.
Do we need any of the gear? It is sweltering. How hot is it up here?
Well, the bright yellow you see back there, that's about 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. So right now the lava in there is too hot. When we dump it out of here, it's about the meter it falls from the spout to the trough, and through the trough, we lose about 275 degrees Fahrenheit. By the time it hits the end, we want to be at 2150 Fahrenheit. And that's the magic spot for the lava.
Researchers are looking for that sweet spot between 1600 and 2200 degrees, the range for natural lava. Knowing the lava's temperature at what time and where is crucial. So the team has an array of 10 digital cameras to capture 3D images of the flow, and a thermal camera which can read up to 3600 degrees Fahrenheit. That way, researchers like Ariana Soldati can analyze both the lava's movement and temperature, leading to a key piece of data.
Viscosity is possibly the most important property in volcanology. It really controls everything from eruptive style to appearance of the flow. And the main physical property that controls viscosity is temperature. The hotter something is, the less viscous it is, and the cooler it is, the more viscous. So it's really important that we can tell what temperature the lava is, because we want to match that with the viscosity.
With this, the team can study how different variables like metal or crystals affect how fast the lava cools and therefore its viscosity. But there's the lab, and then there's the real world, where unplanned and unpredictable factors come into play. That's where this guy comes in.
Well, this is a piece of the Earth that we call the mantle.
That's a piece of the mantle?
This is the piece of the mantle. And this is one of the sort of sidelights that makes some volcanoes incredibly important to study.
This is Ben Edwards, and he likes to get lava data straight from the source. Here's him collecting a sample from a flow in Russia back in 2013. As you can see, Ben's protective gear has more coverage than what they use at Syracuse, because sampling from a natural lava flow can be a 360-degree experience.
If you're going next to a lava river to sample, even in this suit, like I was doing this in Russia from a lava river that's maybe 10, 15 meters wide, and after being there for a minute or so, making some measurements, I could hear my Russian colleagues saying, "Ben, move back, you're smoking." But it was getting hot enough in the suit that even after about, 30 to 45 seconds, I had to back up.
When Ben's around to witness an eruption, he's prepared to collect data. A lot of data.
Am I going to focus on taking lots of lava temperatures? Am I going to focus on getting lots of samples of lava? Am I going to focus on using drones and trying to map very carefully how fast the lava is coming out?
To pull a sample out of the flow, Ben usually uses a rock hammer. But
if I was trying to collect really hot samples, I would probably use some sort of an iron bar that wouldn't catch fire. Like this is okay for short.
It's made of wood.
Yeah.
Here's a clip of Ben's colleague, Alexander Belousov, using an iron bar to collect a sample.
He rests the bar on top of a rock and he uses a lever to pry the sample out. Because it's kind of non-intuitive. It's a lot stickier than it looks if you're just watching it flow by. It's like, wow, that must be pretty fluid because it's moving pretty fast.
That dollop of forbidden honey is then dunked into a bucket of water. Not just to cool it down, but to cool it down fast because
as the sample cools, naturally it does produce these crystals.
The crystals, yeah.
And if you want to see what was in the sample as it was moving down the lava stream, then you want to cool it like that to kind of take all the heat out and basically turn the heat off so that you kind of preserve the sample. And you preserve the crystal content and the sizes of crystals that were actually in the active lava flow.
Crystal size impacts viscosity, so extra growth would lead to inaccurate measurements. To take the temperature of that flow, Ben might use a handheld FLIR camera, like Ariana did in the lab, or a 4-channel data logger.
Each one of these yellow things is a separate thermal probe. So with this recorder, I can record 4 temperatures at once. For example, if I'm interested in figuring out how fast the lava is cooling, right? So here's my lava surface. I might want to put one of these in, just barely in, and the other one I might want to have a little bit deeper. So I can put 2 of these together, and I'm measuring different temperatures now in that same cooling surface.
But you probably won't get those probes back.
I've got wires that are buried in Kamchatka because, once you get 2 feet of this underneath the lava flow, you're not going to get it back out.
That's not yours anymore.
No. It's one of the great things about the Syracuse Lava Lab, right? Because I do a lava flow there, and in the end I take my big hammer and I recover my equipment.
If you don't have probes to spare, you might try thermal mapping the flow from above.
And so drones are really revolutionizing what we can do to study active Earth processes.
You can strap a FLIR camera, a regular camera, or gas sensors to a drone. Potentially even all 3 if you get a drone big enough.
that basically become a volcano observation platform as opposed to just a drone. And one can envision even someday a drone that would have some sort of a tool that would hang down that would allow you to, if not sample lava, because it is tough to get your little sample bucket out. You wouldn't want your drone to get pulled into the lava flow. But you might be able to catch volcanic ash. You could hang a big piece of duct tape that's 20 feet long from the drone and fly it through a dilute ash cloud, and some of the ash particles would stick to the duct tape.
It's just like a fly trap.
Exactly.
But until robots officially take over, we'll need humans on the ground risking their lives and arm hairs to study lava flows.
It's like the lava domes of Montserrat. The only reason we know there have been 3 or 4 domes, I can't remember which, is because there have been people watching and sampling. And yep, there's a dome, and then boom, the dome blew away. Oh, there's another dome. Then it blew, right? And if there wasn't someone there to watch, we might not necessarily know.
So it's important to be in the field for posterity?
Well, and for science, right? If we're trying to understand, that volcano and what it does over time to predict it in the future, and that's the challenge we face when we go to older volcanoes and try to understand what we see in the older volcanoes, because there was no one there watching.
Data gathered in the field helps shape safety plans for people in specific regions. But applying those learnings around the world would be almost impossible without careful testing in the lab.
As geologists, we always need that starting point of what happens in the field, what happens in reality. But unfortunately, in nature, there's no repeatability. Every time there's a lava flow, every time there's an eruption, it's going to be different. You have no control over any of the parameters. Here we can vary things in a systematic way, and this allows us to isolate what could be the cause and what could be the effect and tie them together.
The Goodyear Blimp has been flying for 100 years. The company began building its own airships in 1919.
I'd like to tow you and your team of surfboard riders behind the airship.
Gee, I'd love to try that. What do you say, boys?
Let's go.
The Blimp's primary objective? To be an aerial ambassador for the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. But the blimp that flies today isn't technically a blimp. From 1919 to 2014, it was a blimp, classified as a non-rigid airship, meaning that its balloon, or envelope, had no internal structure. But in 2014, in collaboration with the Zeppelin Company in Germany, Goodyear began flying a new model, incorporating a structure made of carbon fiber and aluminum inside of the envelope, classifying the airship as semi-rigid. The cost of the updated airship is reportedly around $20 million.
It's such a tremendous leap forward for us because having the structure inside, being able to connect everything to that structure, the flight control system, just an all-around tremendous improvement for us over the previous models.
Another key addition to the new model, 4 powerful propellers that can swivel to create both lift and thrust.
So if you point them straight up towards the sky, they hold you up like a helicopter, and if you point them forward, they pull you along like an airplane, and infinitely adjustable anywhere in between there.
And an especially welcome addition to the updated blimp, a lavatory, which the previous models did not have. Even though it's no longer technically a blimp, don't worry. The company isn't going to refer to it as the Goodyear Semi-Rigid Airship. It's going to remain known as the Goodyear Blimp.
I'm Jeff Capek. I'm the chief pilot here at the Goodyear Pompano Beach Airship Base. I learned how to fly the same way everybody does here. We hire pilots that are already fixed wing or helicopter pilots, and then we train them in-house to fly airships. It could take anywhere from 6 months to maybe a little over a year to teach a pilot how to fly an airship.
Well, everybody's got a little different path, but my story is a little bit unique in that I started as a contractor for Goodyear, working mostly cutting grass at the hangar. I have a picture of me when I was 7 years old looking in the blimp at some place that it parked near where I lived at the time. It was just such a cool, unique experience, you know, and one that you remember for forever. And then to come back and get the opportunity to fly them later in life was, it was really cool.
We joined the crew of the Goodyear Blimp on a Friday morning at the Blimp base in Pompano Beach, Florida, about 40 miles north of Miami. The Blimp and its crew of 20 were preparing to travel over 200 miles north to Daytona to provide aerial coverage for NASCAR at the Daytona International Speedway. The Blimp flies there, but the crew has to drive.
About 20 of us go on the road with it together. We've got a semi-truck, which is kind of like a rolling maintenance shop, so we travel pretty heavy.
3.5 hours later, the crew sets up for the Blimp to land at a small airport in New Smyrna, just outside Daytona. The crew loads the gondola with extra ballast to keep it grounded. That's because the Blimp is easily moved by the wind. And because of this, it needs a big parking spot.
We really need a pretty big spot to park this thing because it does have to be able to spin 360 degrees. And the airship itself is almost 250 feet long, so we need a minimum of a 500-foot clear circle because it'll go around in circles all night long.
After landing, the ground crew connects the nose of the Blimp to a mast.
On the top of the mast, there's a cup up there which receives a nose probe in the nose of the ship. So that probe fits into the cup in the top of the mast and it locks it in there, which holds the ship on the ground when we're not flying it.
The Blimp's envelope is filled with 300,000 cubic feet of helium, but its engines require fuel.
It's called avgas. It's 100-octane leaded fuel. It's the same fuel that every piston-powered aircraft runs on. This ship will hold 825 kilos in 3 separate tanks, 1 tank for each engine.
People driving down the highway pull over to watch the Blimp take off. But it wasn't just people that were interested in getting a closer look at the Blimp.
When it's time to take off, we move this yellow lever, swiveled it up to between 60 and 90 degrees, and then added thrust, which creates the lift to lift us off the ground like a helicopter. Once we lift it off the ground, we slowly swiveled this yellow lever forward, which starts creating forward airspeed, and the ship starts to fly aerodynamically.
The flight from New Smyrna to the Daytona Speedway takes about 20 minutes. The gondola has room for 12 passengers, including the camera operator and his equipment.
NASCAR is one of our more challenging events we do. You've got a dynamic of the ship moving around, the cars moving around, so it can be a challenge at times to keep the cars framed in.
The Blimp's camera is mounted on the front of the gondola and is reportedly worth between $400,000 and $500,000. The pilots also have a monitor in the cockpit, so they can see the action below and make adjustments if necessary.
We started off circling the track, and then the camera operator requested us to stop in this position here. It's just a good spot that works well with this camera and the sun angle.
So one of the cool parts about what the Blimp can do is that it can actually just kind of sit perfectly still. I mean, we are about 1,500 feet in the air right now, but we are parked essentially, just sitting over the speedway.
We swiveled the side engines up, which sort of makes the ship act as a helicopter and can hover in one spot right here. The max altitude technically for this Blimp is 10,000 feet. I doubt we'll ever go that high though. We normally stay around 1,000 to 2,000 feet. We like to be nice and low where people can see us.
After around 5 hours in the sky, it was time to head home. So is it fun to fly the Goodyear Blimp?
It's awesome. Feeling like you're flying a boat around in the sky with the technology and capability in this one is so much fun to fly.
Great job again today, guys. All of our preparation looks like it's paying off. So the race went perfectly. The weather held out great for us. Ship's been great. And we finished a little bit earlier than we thought we would. So good for us. All right, have a good night. See you guys later. Break.
The pilots are only a small piece, and really without the crew and the support staff, the airships wouldn't go anywhere. So those are the guys that really do the work behind the scenes that nobody realizes happens, and the logistics that go into moving an airship down the road, you know, and maintaining a safe world-class operation is not a small task.
Every long and complex journey into space starts with this slow 4-mile journey to the launch pad.
It's the first time that we will be carrying the full mobile launcher and the vehicle stack out to the launch pad. It's an integrated test to check out all the systems, so it's very important, and we're all working very diligently to make sure that it goes well.
The crawler transporter is so massive, it takes a crew of 25 to 30 trained engineers and technicians to operate it.
You have a driver and a backup driver, engineering responsibilities in the control room. You've got gel operator, which is our jacking, equalizing, and leveling system that keeps our load level. Then you've also got technicians in the engine room. You've got technicians in the pump room. You've got technicians roving around the catwalk, keeping an eye on all the hydraulic systems, as well as you've got people walking on the ground all around the crawler, keeping an eye out. They have a better vantage point than the driver, so they're in constant communication of how things look on the ground, where our trucks are pointed.
Drivers operate the crawler from one of 2 driver cabs located on opposite corners of the vehicle. Instead of reversing, the driver walks to the opposite cab to continue to steer the vehicle.
This button is what we use to acknowledge that our cab is in control. The lead engineer in the control room will actually go assign a cab control, and then the driver, whoever's in the cab, will acknowledge the command from this button. These 3 will let you choose your steering mode. So most of the time we're operating in great circle, which means the front cab is controlling all 4 trucks, and the crawler will actually turn in a big circle with the steering mode in the center.
It'd be one thing if the 4-mile journey was a straight line, but it's actually curved. And turning the crawler is one of the biggest challenges.
The crawler can only steer up to 6 degrees. So we've divided the steering wheel into 1-degree increments, and so we can have a visual representation of how much we're steering. Driving on curves involves a lot more anticipation. You have to get your turn in early. You put your turn in, and then you have to wait a little bit before you actually see the trucks react.
The crew is responsible for transporting billions of dollars worth of research and development, so every crew member must have a full understanding of the crawler's systems and its 70,000 individual components.
So you see that right, see the wear here? It's the same on the outside. See, it's not wearing down here, but you get that wear there.
To become certified to drive, it depends person to person, but usually it's somewhere around 1.5 years to 2 years.
While many different rockets have sat on the crawlers over the years, the crawlers themselves have remained the same.
The 2 crawler transporters we have in our fleet have transported every single launch vehicle from this vehicle assembly building out to pad complex 39A or B since 1965.
The Marion Power Shovel Company built the crawlers in the 1960s by adapting its mining equipment and used 2 locomotive engines to carry up to 12 million pounds.
And with the extensive maintenance done over all these decades, we've kept this thing running, in some cases as good as it was new.
In the past decade, the crew has adapted one crawler transporter to increase its carrying capacity for the SLS.
These are called our traction roller assemblies. This is what supports the entire weight of the crawler. These trucks will constantly spin all around this, and these will support everything, including we put the rocket on top.
When we started replacing these 88 roller bearings, we did them in 1 truck at a time, so that would be 22 at a time. Then we took it out for a test run, and that would be 6 months worth of work there.
In total, it took 5 years just to upgrade and test all 88 bearings.
Before the upgrade, they were originally designed to carry 12 million pounds. And now with all of our upgrades, we can carry at least 18 million pounds.
Inside the crawler, the vital systems that run the vehicle sit inside the engine room.
So behind me here is our Alco engines. They're 2,750 horsepower. These engines are original to the crawler. I mean, they've never been replaced. They're one of the few still remaining things from the original NASA program. And this is our Cummins AC generators. These provide AC power for all our onboard systems, including our motors for our pumps, our fans that are standing directly below here to actually introduce clean, cool air into the engine room for the techs that are in here.
Today, the crawler is making its way from the crawl yard to the vehicle assembly building, where it will pick up the SLS and mobile launcher for the first time.
Anything doesn't feel right, anything doesn't look right, or something's not right, stop. Bring the crawler to a stop.
After a briefing, the crew inspects every inch of the crawler before they get the all clear to start the engine.
We check all the different pins, cotter pins, quarter stocks up that holds the track together. We check every single one of them on every single belt just to ensure that they are there, because we don't want to break a belt on the way.
With everything in working order, the journey to the VAB is underway. Engineers and technicians walking alongside the crawler, referred to as walkers, are responsible for flagging any potential issues to the rest of the crew.
I'm checking the gear case pressures. It has to maintain, a certain pressure in order to function properly, otherwise you'll get an overheat. You're doing an overall check of the whole crawler just to make sure that everything is hunky-dory so we can get to where we're going.
As the crawler nears the VAB, the driver begins to bring it to a stop.
We are slowing down our speed pot, bringing the crawler to what we call a normal stop by just dialing back, slowing down gradually, giving all of our systems an opportunity to adjust and just slowly come down.
It takes about 14 crew members to plug its power cable into an outlet for shore power.
We always like to keep our systems running like a computer in your house. You don't shut it off every time you use it, it just goes to sleep. So all of our electronics are that way, they go to sleep. And then we have certain types of heaters that keep our engines kind of lukewarm all the time so they're not starting cold. So that always needs to be powered.
These last steps ensure that the crawler is set up for its ultimate task, receiving the SLS and mobile launcher. This roll to the launch pad will test all the work the crawler team has put in over the past decade.
The crawler actually crawls or traverses underneath the vehicle and the mobile launcher. Once we're positioned correctly underneath these gel cylinders, we jack up, lift up the whole vehicle off the mounts.
With the rocket secured on top, the journey to the launch pad begins.
The ground's not always flat, so we have this jacking and equalizing and leveling system that we use to maintain level throughout the transport of the Artemis vehicle. We have an automated system that actually kind of keeps track of our parameters. When we're going up the slope itself, we have one end of the vehicle jacked all the way down, the other end is jacked all the way up, so we've got a range of about 5 feet.
Ahead of the crawler, a truck sprays about 30,000 gallons of water onto the rocky path, which the crawler pulverizes as it inches towards its destination.
The rocks that we roll on, as we crush them, it creates dust. These motors below us here suck in a lot of air to keep them cool while we're rolling, so that dust will get caught up in those filters and they'll clog them up. So by wetting all of the rock, that keeps the dust level down, and then it also changes the friction on the rocks, so it makes them easier for us to turn.
It ultimately takes 10 hours and 28 minutes for the crawler to reach its destination, where it finally lowers the SLS onto the launch pad. The SLS will remain at the pad for a 2-day wet dress rehearsal, where the team will run through the countdown and other procedures. No matter the mission, every long and complex journey into space starts with this slow 4-mile journey to the launch pad.
It's not a piece of flight hardware, it doesn't get all the fancy press that the launch vehicle does, but in the background, we're the most important piece of equipment.
I'm Rick Seaman. I've been a stunt driver for 52 years in film and TV work. I've worked on, Smoking a Bandit, Electric Horseman, Lethal Weapon. I've probably trained about 2,700 students over the 25 years.
Turn, now look, stop, yeah! I'm Becca GT, I'm a professional stunt performer, also an instructor here. So The majority of the stunt driving techniques that we cover here in the class are things that you would normally encounter on a set. So coming in hot to a specific mark, car control, being very precise. So if you're on a set and you have to slide up to a camera or slide up to an actor in the crosswalk, you have the muscle memory and the skill set.
Yeah, ride that slide, all right.
So day one, we get the students comfortable in the cars, get them familiar with weight transfer, how the brakes work. We do some slaloms, then we start throwing in 180s. The second day, the students are generally a lot more comfortable. We cover backwards driving. And the third day, things are starting to come together, more skid turns, and then jam car, which is a timing drill, which puts all the stuff that you've learned into one big moving piece. The smoke's screaming off the tires, and it makes for a really good end of the class.
Welcome to 2.5 days of pure pleasure.
So we start with getting the students comfortable, being a little uncomfortable in the car.
You'll notice that a good driver is just driving from the elbows to the hands. When I see these guys out there and I see this, I go, dear God, you don't want to be that guy. Smooth, you want to be Joe Cool.
I'd say about 85 to 90% of folks that come here are established stunt performers, and they're looking for that little bit of edge to add to their skill set.
I'm Wesley Green. I'm actually an actor and stuntman located in Philadelphia. I'm a big car guy. I love drifting, time attack, everything like this. So to be able to control the car better, I felt would be that much better in my job pursuit. Today started with checking the e-brake, making sure everything works properly. Then we went into some driving drills.
So we want to slide these cars. We want to do 180s and 90s. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to come in hot because we like energy. Energy is good. And as we go to apply the e-brake, we're first going to apply the main brake. Then we bring an E on top of that and finish the job. We get that lockup because the emergency brake only operates the rear brakes on almost all cars. You get a weight shift. The nose of the car dips, which brings the rear of the car up, which takes weight off the rear tires, easier to get them to lock up. So if we can get lockup, we can have fun. If we don't get lockup, we will not have fun.
From the slide is where everything kind of builds. So your foundation is being able to lock up the wheels and understand how that car reacts. Sometimes they're straight, sometimes, you know, the shifting of the weight of the car, sometimes you might have a tire that's a little balder on one side than the other, and that kind of affects the straightness.
We're getting there, we're getting there.
At first, it was getting to learn the car. I would hit the brake too early, so it was finding that right spot. And then once knowing where that spot is, to hit that mark all the time to make it stop where you wanted to stop.
All right, riding that slide.
And then after that, we jumped into some 180s.
The 180 is the first real dynamic move that we teach. And the 180 is initiated by a pretty snappy quarter turn. And as the car comes around, being able to look for your mark and then make sure you plant it right where that, basically the license plate would be dead center with where your mark is.
Line your rear license plate up with that chartreuse center cone. That's the mission. More speed, come deeper, you'll be good.
Common mistakes are sometimes just not coming in fast enough, so you don't have enough momentum to snap the rear end of the car around.
Okay, good. Let's get the eyeballs working now.
You know, a lot of people, they don't realize they have to turn their head over their shoulder and look out that rear window for where the rear end of that car is. Because when you're in the middle of the spin, there's a lot of stuff going on. You kind of don't know which way's up unless you are zeroed in on what that mark is.
That's money. Good job. Thank you for a great day number one. We'll see you in the bullpen. I want to see one more. Show me one more.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes they got it, but you just want to make sure they really got it. Money! All right.
You have to be comfortable with the slide. You have to be comfortable with feeling the physics on the car. I'm Jeff Marshall. I'm a computer engineer, and I'm also an actor and a stuntman. I spend most of my days going through and helping customers solve big IT problems. My other side is I like to fall off buildings, get set on fire, and drive cars real fast.
We're gonna start sliding around corners. Woo! Call them skid turns, hanging the back end out.
Skid turns are a classic example of, the pinnacle of a chase. You see someone come blasting out of an alleyway and get all wild in the street and then bring it back under control to continue.
The key to this is what we call e-brake release timing. They're going to stay on that e-brake long enough to get a nice slide. I want to see get at least 90 degrees of slide, at least. But then they have to get off the e-brake. If they stay on, they're going to spin out and do a 180. So you got to get the feel for when to release the e-brake. Okay, stay on that e-brake, get that slide. That's some money, that's some money.
Patience is the biggest thing. You have to wait for that inertia to take the car around. You have to really feel when it's your time to be able to add gas, add brake, all those different pieces.
All right, yeah! It's a different world, going backwards. These guys are gonna find that out. You're gonna go around the track backwards. It's 10 times more sensitive. You just have to be smooth. If it starts wiggling on, you just make little subtle corrections to get it sorted out. If you panic and jerk it, you're done. You're gonna spin out.
If people try to do this type of stuff on the roads, it's dangerous and it's illegal. So you come to a school like this and you really practice up and just get a lot of time behind that wheel.
It doesn't take much wheel movement to get that car to try and spin, just even accidentally. So now we're gonna do it intentionally.
Basically, you're going backwards as fast as you possibly can, and then at the last second, getting off the throttle so it creates a weight shift onto the rear wheels of the car. At the same time, you crank the wheel very, very, very hard, very quick, and that brings the weight of the nose up and around so it swings so that you're facing, obviously, the opposite direction.
Okay, that's good. Let's try and get centered.
It's just like any sport. You have to practice. And the more wheel time we get, the better we get.
That's some money. All right, right in the hole. Okay, guys, we are into grid. We call this a grid run exercise. That refers to a traffic pattern with chase car or chase cars going up through the traffic.
On 21 Bridges, we had quite a big chase scene. We had the main actor on foot, and the car was pursuing behind him and had to weave in and out of oncoming traffic. There's a lot of moving parts to that.
In other words, you guys are the ND drivers, nondescript stunt drivers. And your guys' job is to hold those positions and not let it get bunched up or jammed up. Here's your chase car. This is Becca. Be on your toes, be ready to rock. Here we go. Okay, let's run one here. Thumbs up, ready. And 3, 2, 1, action. Action chase car, action chase.
So I'm looking for the holes, and these guys are supposed to keep their position so I can get around them, which they're doing a nice job. And we'll kind of dive in here, give him a little chin music. There we go. Most important aspects of the grid driving is to follow the directions, to have a really good sense of spatial awareness so you don't create any areas where things can get constricted or become unsafe.
Now, Jeff Marshall's gonna be our second chase car, and he's gonna chase her through the grid. So you got 2 cars coming through. And 3, 2, 1, action. And action chase, action chase.
Being a chase car is amazing because you know where everybody is and you just get to make it look very dynamic and add the action.
The third day, it's like game on. Everybody's ready to go. They're really hitting throttle.
All this stuff is very perishable. You know, if you don't do it for a while, you're gonna lose it really quick.
That is money.
My name is Steven Kepfer, and I am a stunt performer in New York, and I also run a martial arts studio. I double Eddie Marson on Ray Donovan, season 6 and 7. That's the boxer brother. I've worked on Punisher and a bunch of stuff. Stunt driving, I have very minimal on-set experience, but it's been a few years, and I just wanted to brush up and make sure my skills were staying tight, especially after a long time off with COVID.
So I got a good one for you. We call this the jam car drill. Precision timing involved. And this is where you're going to work timing your skid turn with another moving vehicle. You'll be coming to do your skid turn while the jam car's coming around, and he's going to come down the straightaway and cross in front of you. You're going to slide your skid turn in behind him and chase him down to the turn. So this is about you working your timing. The jam car's distance to the point of meetup is longer than yours, so you got to give him a head start. So I will cue the jam car. You will take your own cue. You'll go when you think it's time. Black car ready. Action cop jam car. He was racing to catch up. If you're gonna be off, it's always better to be late than early. If you're early, you recognize that you have to start slowing down. You may even have to get on the brakes, and then you don't have enough speed left for a decent skid turn. Okay, pretty good, pretty good. Money round. Let's go out on the money. All right, money, money. All right, money, money. Good job, good 3 days. Good class. Good bunch. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not ready to be in Baby Driver yet, but I'm definitely at another level.
I have about 6 more driving schools this year. Again, seat time is the key. A professional athlete never stops training. Stunt people don't either. We get better the more that we do this.
Swiftwater Safety Institute is a professional training organization. Swiftwater is defined by the National Fire Protection Association as water that's actually moving at a rate greater than 1.15 miles per hour.
Hang on, guys. Yeah. We're almost there.
We got 3 days, action-packed, a class full of students training for river rescues. We'll train U.S. military special forces, we'll train fire departments, EMS personnel, police and fire, commercial river guides. We train recreational river users.
My name's Rich Nichols, and I'm from West Jordan, Utah. In 2020, I found myself unemployed. I'm at a point in my life where to restart something over is a little challenging. If there's one positive thing that happened to me out of this, it gave me some new direction. I decided I wanted to get into some guiding.
I got you.
This morning we're at Big Bend Campground here on the Colorado River. It's just about 7 miles upstream from Moab. Today's training is mainly focused on being in the water. So self-rescue and buddy rescue.
We're going to do what we call an adventure swim. So work on our body positioning while we're in the water. Work on what's safe, what's acceptable, and what's not.
So the ideal way for a Swiftwater entry move, or the way that you're gonna jump into a water, you want your PFD, which is the life jacket, to hit the water first. Kind of keep your arms crossed up in front of your face as you're jumping into the water and trying to kind of skip out into the rapid a little bit.
We're going to introduce some ropes in the form of throw bags.
I would consider the throw bag to be the most basic rescue device. A throw bag is simply a bag, and inside of it is a length of floating rope. You would throw that bag of rope to somebody, hopefully landing really on them or very near to them. They would grab that, and now we have a connection between ourselves and that person in the water, where we can swing them into shore.
Rope! Thank you. You know, if you go out there, you have your throw bag, but you haven't been practicing, you throw and you miss, you haven't helped the situation at all. You might have made it more dangerous.
Secondary! Secondary!
Okay, I got it.
If you have an opportunity to fail and people to support you to fail. I definitely failed a couple times throwing the throw bag, but then I also got it.
Hey, my foot's caught! I need a rope or something! 1, 2, hey, coming at ya! Stunt! If you can wrap that around you, wrap it around you! And hold it!
We're going to be working on how to extricate someone who may have caught a foot in the river and become entrapped.
A foot entrapment scenario like this is the most dangerous, scary situation that we can encounter in Swiftwater Rescue, because you've got a person out there with a compromised or no airway whatsoever, so you have seconds or minutes to establish an airway and save that person's life.
You can't hold it much longer! What do I do with this? Hold on tight! Can you hold on to it? My foot's still caught!
Never ever put your feet down to moving water. If you're not in control, that's how this situation gets out of control, is when you put your feet down on the bottom of the river, you get jammed between two rocks or under a rock, and then we have a real life scenario. That's terrifying.
Okay, try to bring him in, somebody help him!
It was a little bit too aggressive water for him, and so we decided that what we'd do is we'd set a human wedge up in front of that particular person to give a water break.
We got our 6-person wedge. We may add 2 people in the back. They're gonna act as rescuers.
I had no idea just the amount of physical exertion it was going to take just on that front person to be at the front of that wedge. Definitely want a bigger person, but you also want a physically fit person that's going to be able to kind of muscle against that current.
I was getting tired. Nice work. Awesome rescue.
We're gonna have a river trip, about an 8-mile river trip. What that allows us to do is to get out there and flip some of these big rafts over and practice riding those and the techniques involved with that.
So we had, kind of mayhem in the water. We had 8 different people in the water, 8 different paddles. We took our paddles and stuck them under the gig line, and then pulled back to reset the raft upright in the water. And then a couple of people were able to get in, other people were attempting to get in as well. The people that were already in the raft were helping those people get in.
It's a pretty chaotic situation, so we want to just kind of make that a little bit more static and make some of those decisions easier and give them somewhat of a format to follow while they're flipping this boat.
If we're going to build a tension diagonal, and that's going to be used to move gear or people across the river. There you go. We're going to be working on some knots. So we're going to set up our 3-to-1 mechanical advantage just to gain a little bit of force.
One of the specific knots we'll be teaching them is this double fisherman's on a bend, and then you pull it together.
It's used to join 2 ropes, but mainly to create a pressic loop. You kind of drape that cord over a line, and it wraps like 3 times and then pulls tight. It's a friction hitch, so that when it's under tension, it bites down on another line, and we can pull it in a couple different directions. When we don't have tension on it, we can loosen it and slide it either direction, up or down that line that we're connecting to. Say I were alone and I can pull on a rope with 100 pounds of force. Through a mechanical advantage system, I can generate a larger force.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, set the brake.
We're gonna clip that pressic loop with a carabiner onto that rope. You know, we're gonna walk out as far as we can. We're not even gonna be clipping in to like down by that wave down there. Yep. And then it's gonna be left shoulder, just like this. It's gonna set your body a little weird. You're gonna feel sideways to the current. It's gonna help push you across. Try to keep your whole body on the downstream side of this rope.
We're going to teach students how to deploy with what's called a live bait tether, so they can be tethered onto their life jacket with the rope and actually go swimming after somebody.
It's all patience. All patience. Okay, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Sneak out there, wait. Okay, now keep going.
Doing the live bait recoveries, it was challenging. You had a swimmer that was out in some swift water moving past you, and you needed to get to him and drag him back in as quickly as possible.
After you make contact, give him a little bit there, Frenchie. That's probably good when you are, bud.
That was the real deal right there.
When you come into this class as any level of user, you're gonna walk away with a more developed skill set than you showed up with. And we see that from a lot of folks. They just go, I had no idea, I didn't know that. Quite a few people, probably 5,000 to 6,000 students have gone through our training program. And those are the same students that work as river rangers, that get jobs working for search and rescue units, that end up going to the military, that work for the Coast Guard.
Well, Rich, I know you're just starting off on a new little adventure here, so I hope this was a great way to kick it.
So I found a guiding job here in Moab. I'm doing a solid for a full year. This training is going to be able to help me in making proper decisions when I'm out on the water and keep myself and my guests safe at the same time.
Well, right now we're in Houston, Texas. Good hot Houston, Texas. A lot of athletes train out here because of the heat. It might be 100-degree heat, 80% humidity. Feel like you're training in the hell with a sauna, you know what I mean? Nah, good, right there.
I'm Brock Wright from Cypress, Texas. I play tight end at Notre Dame and preparing for the draft now.
Ready, shoot, good right there. Jason Owen, I played at Penn State and I'm entering the NFL draft. Good, there you go.
Day one is more like the evaluation day, so I can see how they move, see what they need to work. I look at their body type, see what type of move that goes with their strength.
So he gonna hezzy, and then he gonna power, whoop, then he gonna whoop, get out. There you go. A lot of them might be fast, a lot of them might be athletic, a lot of them might be strong. I get them out here, some of them are uncontrolled. They got undisciplined footwork, they're heavy-footed, they may play too low, they may play too high. I can fix all that stuff, and I bring all that in, and I clean all that stuff up. So by the time we get ready to go to training camp, it's go time. Right here, you know what I'm saying? Some of the NFL guys that I worked with in the past, and actually currently still do, Odell Beckham, Darius Slay, Eric Ebram, Miko Hardeman, Xavier Howard. A lot of the boys see me 2 or 3 times out of the week. So there's a breakdown, you know. For instance, if I got the receivers, Monday might be releases. Wednesday might be breakpoint mechanics. Friday is catching drills. But if I didn't like what I saw on Monday, we're gonna do it again on Wednesday, so I can clean it up. Hey, B, make sure you get your feet inside your body frame. All right, what happened is, Brock, they go here and then tap, 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 and then you start doing all this, you ain't going nowhere. So take it where? Octagon, whoop, whoop, then what? Cone, right there. I've been working with Brock since he was in middle school. Brock is probably one of the best inline blocking tight ends in college football. We're working on primary releases, secondary releases, and getting out of his break. If he's here, Brock, you gotta go here, I gotta go where? All right, good, then stick it. All right, you know what I'm saying? That's the only way that's gonna work.
Rashad's really good at helping me with my fluidity and route running, recognizing coverages and all sorts of things like that. So getting out here, getting to work on that, and you know, just overall improving my game as a tight end.
Good, good, good. Tap, tap, good. Nah, good, right there. Good. You know, I think football comes from the ground up. Like I always say, the mechanics behind the movement. Everything you do in NFL is got to be precise. So I'll start right here first. Start feet, and then you start going football IQ. Good. Right there, ball. Good. You see a lot of release stuff where I got to dip in the shoulders, and I got to release it off the pad, and then you always see them push it to a linebacker.
Then the eyes go in.
Eyes go in. Boom, there you go. You got to move them with your, you're going to start moving them with your eyes. You see a lot of guys kind of moving with their eyes, a lot of demeanor, a lot of head fakes. That stuff plays a huge role in NFL football because the NFL defensive backs are so talented, so smart, their football IQ. It's not easy for receivers to get off there, to get them guys off their spot. You know what I mean? So now you got to kind of move them with their eyes. I'm not safe, I'm here, B. If your eyes are straight, bro, keep practicing. There it is, right there. You know what I'm saying? All right, it's chest, dog.
It's nice because, I mean, when you're doing practice or weightlifting at Notre Dame, it's a lot more generalized stuff. So when I come out here, we get to focus on specific things, just working that craft and working on all the little things you need to get better at.
Now, good. Right there, bro, there you go. Good eyes, baby.
Today was great, worked on a bunch of route running stuff. Now that pro day's over, it's all about getting back into football shape. You know, do weight training every day and then come out here, do this sort of thing, and then a little bit of conditioning on top of that. But, you know, ready to get back into the football swing of things.
You know, you got some that are gifted. When you get to the NFL, you got to start taking everything, dude. Everybody's good. Everybody's gifted, but the detail things, the small detail things is what separate everybody else.
Right there, yes sir, Jade. Oh, get that. Good work, boy. I've been working with NFL athletes 4 years. I think the main thing is body control for a lot of guys, learning how to use their body, because a lot of these guys are big and strong, but they don't know how to stop and start. They don't know how to anchor their hips down. Knowing how to bring speed to power, and then just movement, the hand activity. But it's feet, hands, and eyes. Attack this shoulder here. Attack this shoulder, now, boom. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Jason, he's a long guy, and he's fast, so we're gonna go speed and speed to power. Ready? Step, boom. Good right there. Good.
Yeah, it's just more specific and, you know, more detailed. Like I know what I gotta work on, and, you know, it's more one-on-one, and, you know, I'm getting it done.
Right there, shot. Yeah, right there. Shot, good, that's work. Jump before. Good right there.
I wish I can get more time. You know, I feel like I'm getting better every session. Hit up BT, man. He the best. Hit him up.
The NFL is it's a quick game. Speed is second to agility. So you got to be very detailed, precise movements, and very calculated. It's like chess, honestly.
You can't drop when you drop your hand, you gotta keep them up. It was my first day with Damone. First day I go to fundamentals, I work footwork, start off with octagons, working body control. So I start with their feet, go and get their upper body together, and then I put it all together. Keep on. Right there. This is my third year with Roy. We started off with footwork. Good. He's a big guy. I work in coordination with him. We're getting his hips flexible, working hands. Step. Good right there. But now we're more advanced. We're moving a lot, working his toe turn, working a lot of stab, more Pacific, running his line, things like that.
So we crab walk vertical. Hey, Q, crab, but when you get ready to drop, whoop, rise up. You know what I'm saying? So I can, right there, you know what I'm saying? Rise up, crab, now, rise up, now. Whoop, 1, 2, good, there it is. I've been training coordinating since he's 9th grade. He's a wide receiver coming out of Texas A&M. He's a special player. Great hands, possesses a lot of release quickness, real slide route runner, uses a lot of head fakes, able to sail with his eyes, more so quick than fast, but has running back ability with the ball in his hands. Split, now, good, woo, good, right there, ball, good. We're working on accelerating, decelerating with him. He got short area quickness, but he gotta be short area quickness controlled. Stick out there to him, push vertical to him, inside him now. Good, there you go. No, inside, boy. You know, we're working on releases. Release is what we got to do to get into the development of their route. And release is just a receiver escaping from a defender. If you don't see them getting open in the NFL, it's probably because they can't release. You know, that's why I'm like a lot of the guys who are super duper fast, it's not going to be beneficial if you can't release. Squirrel, he ain't going nowhere. Squirrel, he ain't going nowhere. Got a squirrel with him. Good, now he here. Now move, there you go, good.
Just from working out with him so long, he kind of got a feel of things that I need to work on. Different days we might do like releases, routes, straight footwork drills, running back drills, all that type of stuff.
Good. Now, good, Q, good. Eyes on now. 1, 2, good. Right there, ball. Good. See, recording is just fine tuning. I have him doing a couple steps at the line as if there's a defensive back there. Worked on moving the defensive back with his eyes. Worked on release quickness. Step, 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 good, there it is. Recording footwork, great. That's highly expected recording, man. He's been out here for too long. It's second nature to him now. Good.
I remember when I first came out here, I was not nowhere as quick as I am now, you know what I'm saying? So we just drilled all of that, like we went hard on it. I definitely elevated my game a whole lot working with him for those years. Everybody good at this level, you know what I'm saying? So you can't really miss a step as you could like in college or high school because everybody at the top of their game at this level. Doing these things right here just keep me sharp, you know what I'm saying? So it definitely helped.
Living in Texas, football's king out here. I played football from Little League, from middle school, high school, but I battled a bunch of injuries in high school. So I walked on to U of H, but I didn't get any opportunity to play up there because I got injured again. Being a kinesiology major kind of helped me understand how the body moves, you know. The injuries is what got me to where I'm at now, though, you know. They helped me understand how the body works and then how athletes are supposed to move on the field. So I figured out a lot of different ways to get point A to point B without a lot of strenuous movements. A lot of coaches they can tell them what to do, but they can't show them. Man, we visual learners, all right? You can't tell them what to do, all right? They want to see you do it. You gotta explain how it benefits them, right? After you explain, you gotta demonstrate. Movement efficiency is key. Usually when somebody gets beat, whether it's O-line, D-line, or receiver, cornerback, you know, somebody moving better than the other. Somebody hands quicker than the other. NFL, you can't just get by athleticism. You gotta start getting more detailed and start really honing in your craft. For guys that aren't working with me, you know, they don't want to be great. You know, I can tell you that right now, just off my energy alone. But once they come out here, they don't leave.
When wildfires spread, they can be too powerful for firefighters on the ground.
Laps 10, ready for the water.
That's where aerial firefighters come in.
Set power. Power set, on a feather's armed. Right there. Feel that? There it is. Scooper 282's inbound loaded for the drop.
And 3, 2, 1, drop.
Loads away.
These are the pilots who operate specially built aircraft to target a fire with more than 1,000 gallons of water, working with agencies like the U.S. Forest Service and state governments.
We're seeing a massive wildfire threat worldwide, and it's straining the infrastructure of a system that was designed for a 2 to 3 month fire season into a persistent year-round threat. Our people are trained and tailored to ensure that we're providing the absolute best support on time, on target, because after all, the fires are won and lost on the ground.
In January, we spent 3 days with Bridger Aerospace in Mesa, Arizona, to see its pilots train and recertify ahead of what's expected to be a very busy fire season. CEO Tim Sheehy is a former Navy SEAL, and he's also getting his annual retraining to pilot the Super Scooper himself during wildfire season. This is the weapon these pilots use to fight fires. The $30 million CL-415 EAF, more commonly known as the Super Scooper.
They are the only aircraft that's purpose-built to fight fires. That's all they do, and they do it well.
This aircraft skims across the surface of the water, picks up 1,400 gallons of water, and can carry that water to a fire, drop that water on the fire to assist wildland firefighters who are on the ground. A few months goes by after not doing a lot of flying. It's good to get back in the seat, get some reps on the water, some scoops.
Pilots in training practice handling the aircraft in a variety of scenarios.
Scooper pilots, you've got to be a master of all things. You're often dealing with multiple aircraft in an area. You have to be able to fly up in the altitude. You also have to be able to fly low level, down and dirty, in the smoke, in the mountains, where there's low visibility and high terrain.
At 30,000 pounds, the Scooper is 30 feet tall and has a 93-foot wingspan. Nimble may not be the first word that comes to mind.
We're flying into extremely narrow canyons, very low altitude, banking high G turns at a high rate of turn. Flying an aircraft this big, that low, and that dangerous of an environment is very rare.
It's going to be, max power. We're already at flaps 10. So.
My name is Barrett Farrell, and I am a first officer on the Scooper here at Bridger Aerospace. In 1990, I was 4 years old. There was a forest fire on the mountain just south of where I grew up. I was able to watch a B-17 tanker dropping retardant And after experiencing that when I was about 12 years old, I always knew I wanted to be involved in aerial firefighting.
You have control? I have control. Clear for takeoff. Ready to go? Yep.
In training, pilots react in simulated emergency scenarios like an engine failure.
Okay, simulated right-hand engine failure.
Where they practice feathering or adjusting the pitch of a failed propeller to reduce drag and fly safely to a landing spot.
Confirm right-hand alternate feather. Confirm. Feathering down. Is it feathered?
Positive feather.
Positive feather.
An engine failure, we never know when that's going to happen. And so we want to train to make sure when we have that engine failure, the muscle memory is already there for what we have to do.
Pilots also practice making an emergency descent.
Okay, 172, 12 o'clock, right in front of us.
4,000. Okay, starting the level. Okay, we avoided the traffic.
Training is focused on failures and being ready for those failures so that when they happen, we can respond quickly with certainty and with assurance that what we're doing is the best outcome for what that failure has done.
But the most important part of training is practicing the aircraft's main function, performing the scoop and the drop.
One of the things that's unique about aerial firefighting, of course, is you're not flying at 30,000 feet. You're not flying at 10,000 feet. That aircraft will come in and it'll be dropping 100 feet, 50 feet.
Get ready for the water. So see how you kept that speed up? Keep that nose coming down. Right there, get ready to add some power. Now. Oh. Airborne.
Before making contact with the water, the aircraft slows down to 90 knots.
Once we actually decide we're coming in to pick up a load of water, the flying pilot will call for flaps on speed.
Flaps on speed.
We come in, we touch down. We're on the water for approximately 12 seconds with the probes down. I'll call probes up.
Probes are up.
And now the aircraft will begin to accelerate so we can come up out of the water with a load of water. The most challenging part is definitely making sure you get the load of water where the ground firefighters want it. There's a lot going on with it when we're coming in to make that drop versus our airspeed, what the wind's doing, and the topography of the terrain. It can be very challenging to make sure we get that right where they want it.
Since it's already on your side, how about you take a good look for me here, Jim? Okay. And then we'll make a left down one.
We're contacting the air attack, who's our communication between the ground firefighters and us. So we'll tell him, hey, we're inbound with a load.
Air attack 262 inbound for the drop.
Now once we're getting set up for the drop, captain will say, okay, I'm lined up.
Scooper 282 is inbound loaded for the drop.
And I will reassure him that you're armed and ready for the drop.
You're armed, ready for the drop.
And once we get there, we'll actually press the water drop button.
And 3, 2, 1, drop.
And we're turning back to our water source to go pick up another load of water. Mainly the main feeling is like, man, I want to make sure I'm helping that guy on the ground because he's the one who really needs this. And so that's the pressures I have.
Training really never stops. You're always constantly studying. You're always constantly having to review your manuals and procedures and systems on the aircraft.
When you have other people from the community come out and tell you, thanks for the help, or thanks for being here, guys, you know, you saved my house, it lets you realize the big picture of what we're doing here.
This is Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, and these are its 5 runways. And here's the control tower. It takes a rotating staff of 58 traffic controllers to keep the airport running. Pre-pandemic, they directed 909,000 flights through takeoff and landing each year. These controllers are responsible for any planes inside Atlanta Hartsfield airspace, 5 miles out and 4,000 feet above the airport. Once a plane enters Atlanta's territory, air traffic controllers are in charge of communicating with pilots over radio. They direct pilots in the air through safe landings and pilots on the ground through takeoffs. The goal?
Efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. What can you do to help us be more efficient? Well, the one thing that we're not going to do is make sure that you compromise safety in that equation.
But the job isn't easy.
There's a lot of dynamic decisions. If an aircraft is coming into land and they have to go around because of an unstable approach, the weather didn't cooperate, they couldn't get the runway in sight, you have to be ready to make a decision
To become a fully qualified controller, it can take up to 5 years of classroom, simulator, and on-the-job training. But if they make it, the average controller in Georgia makes $145,000 a year. A job in Atlanta's tower is one of the most coveted ATC positions in the US. Candidates go through a rigorous hiring process, which can take
somewhere just under a year. We're getting closer to 6 to 9 months.
Once they've been hired, incoming controllers start on the simulator.
So any new controller that would come here, they would initially come here and do book work, and then follow it up with the book work, they would come in the simulator room.
A new controller will do multiple pass-fail scenarios, but on the simulator, they'll have fewer planes to juggle than the real deal in the tower.
Then they'll have an evaluation, and then if they pass that evaluation, they can head up to the towers.
We have 2 controllers working there today. One of them is in training. There's never really a slow period to speak of.
Though air traffic always picks up in the summer and days before and after holidays. But whether it's Christmas Eve or just another Tuesday, controllers have to stay focused.
I don't know that we want people to be comfortable. We want people to be on edge. We want people to be at the top of their game.
Controllers have to remember and monitor up to 30 planes at once. That's a lot to think about, especially since studies show the human brain can only handle 7 things in short-term memory at a time.
I had about 25 to 30 aircraft all on my frequency. At one time, they're all taxiing out for departure. But once I said, monitor the tower, 12 tree, 0.85, that's when they got off my frequency. So, you know, at one time you could have a lot, then 1 minute later it could be all gone.
The job's so mentally draining that the Federal Aviation Administration allows controllers to work for only 2 hours before they're required to take a break. To help make their work easier, controllers' jobs in the tower are highly specific. Each runway is assigned either takeoff or landings.
That controller is just focused on that runway, that specific runway and that specific runway only.
The controller who clears planes for takeoff or landing is called the local controller. There are 2 or 3 of them in the tower at once.
This gentleman's working what we call Local 5, and Local 5 is handling, at the moment, all the arrival aircraft coming in from the east.
Then there's the ground controller. This guy focuses on directing traffic on the ground, telling planes which runway to taxi to. So in the case of an approach and landing, it might start with the local control saying this to the pilot.
It'll be Delta 222, runway 8 left, wind calm, clear to land. We'll turn it over to the ground controller. As they exit, Delta 222, contact ground 119.2. They'll go over to ground control. Ground control will tell them which direction to taxi to get them over to the ramp.
Controllers have universal rules to follow to make sure everyone is safe. First, there's the lingo.
All right, 1123, taxi ramp, keep moving, traffic behind you, have a good day.
The international language for air traffic control is English.
They also have special terminology so no 2 words will get confused.
Runway 27 right, follow southwest.
The guys at Chicago O'Hare or PDK or Atlanta Tower say the same things for most of our control instructions. It doesn't deviate, and that consistency is what helps us keep communications down to a minimum.
Minimal talking is important because every plane and every controller share the same radio frequency.
353, follow the 737 ahead.
And they're all in the same telephone call, 15 airplanes here in Atlanta.
Short calls aren't the only way controllers ensure efficiency. These strips help the controllers keep track of all the planes moving through that process. Each one represents a plane. It has the flight number, the airline, the city the plane's going to or coming from, and the departure or arrival time.
Once the flight plan is generated at its proposed time, as you've seen right here, these will print out. This flight Delta 1904 is an international flight. It's going from Atlanta down to Marigot, so Delta 904. And this aircraft here is a Boeing 757-200. This airplane is scheduled to depart at 1542 Zulu. When he departs, he's requesting to go to 37,000 feet. So this strip would then, once it's ready, they'd place it in one of these strip holders. So you'd find the Delta 904, which is at Echo 9. They'd place Echo 9 on here and slide it to the appropriate side.
A controller will have 4 or 5 of these strips active at once. This is how they sequence the planes in order of priority.
The passenger doesn't see the bigger picture. The pilot thinks, I've been sitting here, why? The reason why he's holding is because we're trying to provide that sequence so that we can get maximum capacity out at one time.
Sequencing can help move planes along quicker, but how exactly does it work? Here's an example. If 2 planes are going the same direction, say to San Antonio and Houston, they have to be at least 4 miles apart, so they don't run into each other in the sky, which means time waiting between takeoffs. But if a controller alters the sequence using those strips...
So in this case, this is a west, a north, and a west. This aircraft's going to San Antonio, this aircraft's going to Milwaukee, and this aircraft's going to Houston. So we can depart 6,000 feet down the runway and airborne and roll all these.
That Milwaukee flight can take off right behind the San Antonio flight. And now they've had 3 planes take off in the same amount of time.
It makes a big difference for the ground controller to actually provide a good sequence because it's efficient and the aircraft could keep going at the fastest rate. And that's what we do. And that's our job.
Efficiency means fewer delays.
If there are major delays, it disrupts air travel all throughout the country and parts of the world.
In 2018, Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport was ranked the best airport in the U.S. for flight delays, with the highest percentage of on-time departures.
15 airplanes, we're looking at a minute behind one another, so it's not bad, 15 minutes.
But of course, some things are out of their control.
You can go upstairs and you can look out of that window and you can see nothing at all and still have movement taking place on your airport. And then there's days like today, clear in a million, that's what we call it, when it's just a beautiful sunshine day and you can see forever. We can move a whole bunch of airplanes. It's 132 an hour, I believe, is our arrival rate max. On a typical day, we try to stay right around in the 120s.
Controllers also have to contend with inclement weather. Sometimes planes can't land on their first attempt, so they'll have to pull up, circle back, and get in line to land again.
You have to be ready to make a decision. How am I going to get this airplane back up into the air, back over to the next air traffic control facility so that they can resequence them back into our pattern?
Luckily, some technological advancements have made this whole process a lot easier. Remember those strips?
So a lot of this is automated now.
While controllers may still use the physical strips, they also show up on monitors and are automatically sent over to the next controller in the sequence. Also, technology means weather isn't as debilitating as it once was.
There used to be a time when weather would shut your airport down.
But now,
being able to forecast and project when that weather's coming, we're not surprised like we used to be.
We go in the cloud sometimes and that's when our equipment is all we got.
ASDX, radar, and GPS positioning help controllers track a plane.
We're able to use that technology now to actually separate and identify where those airplanes are legitimately, so we can use the term clear for takeoff even though we can't see the physical runway any longer.
But all that technology doesn't mean these controllers can be any less diligent. They have to be focused and undistracted nonstop. This is the busiest airport in the world.
The number, the volume, I don't think many airports can handle what we do. That's the truth.
My name is Siti Nurazlin and I am a first-class crew working for Emirates.
Like the approximately 144,000 applicants a year, CT had to meet the airline's qualifications. A minimum age of 21 years old, a height of at least 5'2", an arm reach of about 7 feet on tiptoes to reach those overhead bins, fluency in English, at least a high school degree, and no visible tattoos when in uniform. Just like every other new hire, CT started her Emirates career at the bottom, in economy on short-haul flights. And through the years, she's worked her way up to first class. Today, she crews an average of 9 long-haul flights a month. Her schedule changes every week, but always includes flights that last up to 16 hours. And for a lot of that time, CT is on her feet. She estimates about 11 hours out of a 16-hour flight.
The job could be quite challenging physically, so we need to maintain our physique and also be quite fit.
But thankfully, she's not in heels the whole time.
We do change our uniform after takeoff, so we get to put on our flats because the high heels won't get really comfortable in 16 hours. And we change into our waistcoat.
CT is also required to look the part.
Usually we keep to a natural makeup, like eyeliner and mascara usually is a must, and the Emirates red lipstick, definitely.
And just like makeup, hairstyles, jewelry, and nails are also pretty strict. As for jewelry, they can wear diamond or pearl stud earrings, but no necklace. And their nails have to be clean, with either a nude or red polish or a French manicure. Now these requirements are for female flight attendants. Males have to be clean-shaven and style their hair with minimal product. But there's an added level of responsibility for first-class attendants like CT. For starters, she knows who the regular flyers are and what they like.
We do have information on our customers, so on every flight we will observe the preferences and the likes and dislikes of the customers, so we get to write it down for future flights. For example, like pajama size or their preferred drinks. So the more someone flies with Emirates, the more we can cater to their personal preference.
She's also required to have an expert understanding of the entire first-class menu. She knows options for passengers with dietary restrictions, the perfect wine pairing for dishes, and the tasting notes of 60 cheeses. And since she's typically serving international travelers, CT is a master at communicating across different backgrounds. But she's not the only one. Like most of the cabin crew, CT knows more than one language. For her, it's English and Malay. But there are over 60 languages spoken across Emirates cabin crew, and a staff of over 135 nationalities. Now on board, CT's duties are pretty standard. Do a safety check of the plane before passengers board, provide food and drink service during the flight, and go through the cabin after everyone deboards. But off the plane, the perks of the job are substantial. Flight attendants get a base pay, depending on experience, with an hourly rate stacked on top. Starting out, that equals about $32,000 a year. Plus, they get free housing in Dubai, not far from the airport. They get 30 vacation days, 1 free flight a year, and can nominate friends and family for discounted tickets.
The perks of this job especially would be the concessionary tickets that we get, and not just for me but for my family and friends as well. So I don't really have to travel on my own or travel with just my crew friends. I can travel with my friends who are not flying as well.
They even get to staff events like the US Open or make special appearances. But the best part? Traveling to 140 destinations worldwide with layover accommodation and meals covered.
The best part of my job is traveling, definitely. I've been to over 100 destinations with Emirates. I have never, and I don't think I would ever travel to all these exotic places that we fly.
When you're trying to sell a place, you want to make potential buyers feel at home. But when you're selling an apartment that's, say, $14 million, that's a 7,200 square foot triplex penthouse with 3.5 bathrooms, skylights, high ceilings, and over 1,500 square feet of private outdoor space, well, that would sell in an instant, right? Not necessarily. That's where Cheryl Eisen comes in. She's the go-to luxury apartment stager in the New York area. She does more than help sell homes. She sells you on a dream life. The whole purpose of staging is to style and furnish a place for sale, to highlight its selling points for potential buyers, and help them envision themselves living in the space. Cheryl is the CEO of Interior Marketing Group, a New York City-based company that does interior design, staging, and marketing for luxury homes. Her past buyers and clients include Chrissy Teigen and John Legend, Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, Kim Kardashian West and Kanye West, Bethany Frankel, and Swedish real estate broker Fredrik Eklund. The homes she stages? They start at $5 million and go as high as $230 million. The cost of the pieces for a staging is usually about 1% of the listing price of the home. Today, we're going to follow Cheryl and her team as she stages a loft that is expected to sell at around $14 million in Tribeca. But before we get to that, all the magic starts here, at this warehouse in Jersey City.
This is where all the magic happens. It's 60,000 square feet of furniture, light fixtures, art, custom furnishings. Behind me here is the accessory section, and I'm going to show you today how we tag and prepare for a staging, and then we're going to go to the Duane Street Tribeca loft that we're doing, and you'll see the whole thing happen right in front of you.
The aesthetic we're going for today? A modern, minimalistic look. After the pre-planning, the most important part is going into the warehouse and picking the exact pieces she wants for the space. It all starts at the board.
So here we are at the projects board. These are the projects we're doing at any given time, a lot. This is the one I'm doing today, right here with the blue tape. I'm going to show you how we tape for projects. Let's go.
Each staging starts off with a walkthrough with the broker or the client to decide what areas or selling points they want to highlight.
So I'm looking for sofas for this project. It's a really huge loft space, And I want the ceilings to look super high, so I want something that's really low profile. We're doing like gray neutral tones, so I feel like this sofa here, which is really cool and sculptural, is gonna be a good choice. I'll pull it out, put some tape on it, and this will be part of our staging. This will be in the living room. Then upstairs we've got a media room, and I want the sofa to look a little different. So I feel like this one could be really good. It's modular, which means you can put it in any configuration. It works in every apartment. I'm gonna put my blue tape on it, and it's gonna come with us to Duane Street.
Staging with Cheryl is not an easy task. All the homes she works on are staged from start to finish in only 12 days. That's why her custom art, furniture, and upholstery teams are so important. She can get exactly what she needs done, quickly, all in-house.
So I love this chair for the dining chairs. The only thing is this color is a little too light, so I'm gonna make it gray in the upholstery room, and I'm gonna make these legs silver. So I'm here in the throw section. I want to grab a really cool textural throw for the living room. I'm going to take these two, a cool and a warm. So here I'm looking for some cute, colorful pillows for the kids' rooms, which I love doing. They're so colorful. I'm going to grab a couple for the girls' room and then one for the boys' room. So for us, especially since I work typically in neutral tones, tone on tone, I love to layer textures, and pillows and throws are perfect for that. So I can do like a gray velvet sofa, then I can do like a textured pillow and a fur throw, and now I've got three sort of feelings in that space that really add warmth. I've got the sofas, I've got the dining chairs. I'm gonna go to the dining table section. Let's go choose a dining table. So we need a huge table to fit in this place because it's huge. We're gonna have to make our own base actually because we don't have one that's big enough. And I'm gonna top that base with this amazing piece of glass, and I think that'll be perfect. So I'm looking for a round top, but I don't see the exact one I want. I'd love a black glass top. So I think I'm gonna have one made, send it over, and that's gonna be our coffee table.
Cheryl's staging strategy is to think about who the demographic buyer is and choose furnishings and decor pieces to show them how they can live in and use the space.
So because we focus in the luxury space, most of the places really are sort of beautiful already, but they're not selling for whatever reason. You can't imagine how someone will live in this space. They can't get a sense of where you'd put your living room, or how large it is for how much large furniture, how many you can accommodate for a dining space. So we tell that story. We think about who the demographic buyer is. Is it a family? Is it a bachelor? How are they going to live in that space? And then we tell that story visually with the furnishings. I'm going to do like a wooden stump kind of a thing to put next to the bathtub and put some towels on it and some soaps, just so it's like an organic moment. So these are all our side tables, which I love, and this guy has been with me for 25 years, this table. It's amazing, we still use it, 25 years. So this is the lighting section, which is so important to staging because it really customizes a space. It adds ambient light, and it really makes a space feel authentic and different. Lighting can change a room like that. Now for this place, it's gigantic, so we need two huge fixtures. So here we are back in the accessories section. Now I'm gonna actually choose some pieces for this living room to add some color, and here we go. I think I want some blue, and then a few things that'll sort of go with this. And now we're gonna go over to art and get some art. So here's where custom art is made, and it's amazing what they can do. Not only do they paint and do mixed media, but here's some photography prints that they print out on our giant printer, which is amazing, onto canvas. And this girl I love. And April, do you think you could put pink on this to bring this? Some color in this. Then we'll frame her and bring her over. All of these amazing oversized pieces of art are so important to our staging and our design because it's impossible to get like a 12-foot piece of art in 12 days. That's going to be exactly what we're looking for to fill our giant walls and the spaces we design. And that really differentiates our design from other designers. You can always sort of tell an IMG place because the art is original, gigantic, oversized art. And it really fills the scale of a wall and it makes the place look bigger. So now we're gonna leave art and we're gonna go to the custom department, which does our upholstery. They create custom furnishings and it's amazing because no one else does this. So if I want a coffee table that's shaped like a star, I do it in 2 days because we've got every possible iteration of finishings, of wood. We make our own custom drapes, custom pillows, custom headboards. I mean, it's amazing what goes on here. So we didn't love the color of this really cool chair, so we're refinishing it in gray like we're gonna do to our dining table chairs.
Once everything is picked and tagged, the pieces are packed and loaded for the move-in.
Here we are at Duane Street. We're on site and we're about to do this great room. So I'm gonna show you the design plan. So right over here, we're gonna do the giant dining table with the chairs all over. Here, we're doing a giant rug. Cool comfy chair here, cool comfy chair here facing this fireplace. Here, we're doing a huge sofa, another sofa facing it, and a cool triptych of coffee tables in the center to bring it all together. We're gonna move all the furniture in, all the rest of the rooms are done, and this is the last one to go, but you're gonna see how it gets done, and then I'm gonna give you the grand tour. All right, so here we are for the grand reveal. All right, I'm gonna show you the things that we chose in the warehouse that you might recognize, but here's the gorgeous finished grand space. I mean, it's amazing. If you'll notice, this sofa is the one we chose in the warehouse. The 3 coffee tables which anchor the whole design, and the coffee table base that's mirrored right there is the one that the fabricators made. We added a couple of pops of color like blue that you saw me choosing, and the rest we left really open and airy. And these chairs are the chairs that we made in the upholstery department. They used to be white with gold, and now they're perfectly gray and in the right color story. And now that you've seen the great room, I'm gonna show you the rest of the house. Come follow me. So here we are in the media room, right upstairs from the great room. It's got some pops of color, but you can really chill out and relax in this room and enjoy this gorgeous piece of art. Welcome to the master suite. It's very soft and luxurious. It makes you want to like really jump in here and fall asleep. There's some tips and tricks we use in staging. It's somewhat formulaic. To add light, you add lighting. You also add mirrors across from a window because then it's twice as much light, twice as many windows, and it makes a place look larger as well. To add height, you use low profile furnishings, makes the ceilings look higher. You use floor to ceiling drapes, make the ceilings look higher. So here's the pillow we picked out for the girls' room. I'm just gonna place it here casually as a throw pillow on the floor to add a pop of color. So this is the final part of the story we're telling for the buyers, where they would come and relax in this library, have a glass of champagne, and toast that we're gonna launch this apartment finally. So
I bet at this point you're left with one last question. What happens to all the furniture and decor when the home is sold? Most of the time, they're sold fully furnished. And if they're not, the pieces go back to the warehouse and get a new life at a different staging.
I think you just have to be accepting that death is just part of life and that death doesn't have to be the end. I think taxidermists often feel like everyone else sees death as this more tragic thing and that it's the end, and that we see it as an opportunity for a new beginning. So it's not the end. How's that?
Taxidermy means the arrangement of skin.
Basically, you're removing the skin from the specimen, and then you're cleaning and preparing the skin. Then you're moving it onto a mannequin or form.
Ancient Egyptians were the precursory taxidermists. Although they didn't actually remove the skin, they embalmed bodies of animals using injections, spices, and essential oils. They also used salts found in lakes in the lower region of Egypt to preserve skin, specifically borate of soda and sulfate of soda. Many, many centuries later, taxidermists like Amber used borate of soda, or borax, a white powder in tanning formulas to treat animal skins.
It's a powder preservative that gets put on the inside of the skin before it gets mounted onto the mannequin. And this is going to keep it from decomposing, it's going to dry it out, it's going to keep any pests from being interested in it. Then when you have thicker skinned animals like a deer, or fatty animals like a bear or raccoon, they need to go through a wet tanning process. So that would basically be using a liquid tan and submerging it in it for a number of days.
Once those skins are tanned, they can be mounted, placed on a mannequin that is carefully sculpted to accurately portray the body of an animal.
Mount your skin onto the mannequin, sew it up, blow dry it, pose it, let it dry.
Amber earned her taxidermy license after apprenticing under a professional. Like most trades, skills are passed from teacher to apprentice, and Amber intends to continue that tradition.
I learned by doing it hands-on, so by experiencing it hands-on by someone who knows what they're talking about, I think that's really important. And I saw a niche there in the market of, people who wanted to learn this trade.
Amber's Brooklyn Taxidermy is one of 2 taxidermy studios in New York City. But she's not like traditional taxidermists who work with hunted game. Instead, she uses frozen feeder animals that would be used to feed reptiles, euthanized animals from the NYC Animal Care Center, deceased animals from zoo and wildlife preserves as well as pet stores, deceased house pets, and leftovers from butchers.
So it's a really symbiotic relationship. Butchers to use the insides, and they would throw out the skins, the antlers, so otherwise they would go in the trash, so then I use those parts. So that would be rabbits, quails, pheasants, ducks, goats, deer, anything you could eat.
Amber's freezer is stuffed to the brim with rats, butterflies, and other deceased animals.
These are innards from the squirrel that was skinned today. So these go to my friends' pets who have pet snakes, or they go to the zoo across the street from my mentor shop.
Animals she'll bring to life in a days-long process that includes gutting, skinning, mounting, and everything in between. Like many taxidermists, Amber entered the trade as a curious amateur.
My friends who have worked for me from a long time ago, you're like, give that back, put it in a bonfire, and I'll make you a new one. I guess I was just doing it as a hobby, and it just kind of grew. And then I kept, buying dilapidated pieces or broken pieces or dirty pieces from a scoop sale or flea market, trying to figure out how to fix them, getting books and YouTube videos on how to do it, and eventually I took some lessons and went to school for it.
There's a wealth of knowledge online. Manuals listing tools and how to use them, directions on how to skin and preserve mammals and birds, and instructions on how to make models and mannequins. And taxidermy has played a role in history. One look through a natural history museum, and you'll see various exotic trophy-hunted animals lining the floors. In the 1800s, Scientists use taxidermy to study animals outside of their geographical region. Many natural history museums have pivoted away from this outdated practice. The Smithsonian in DC declined to replace its last full-time taxidermist, and instead opted to hire freelance taxidermists for exhibit repairs only. And maybe a mounted deer head on a wall comes to mind as well. Taxidermy and hunting have long gone hand in hand. In many cases, bigger mammals mounted from the neck up can be eaten. Artistic taxidermy took an eccentric route in the Victorian era, with the introduction of anthropomorphic taxidermy. Picture cats dressed for a wedding or magician mice. A lot of taxidermists today create anthropomorphic taxidermy.
I think that it's an endless world of, possibilities. I'll never feel like I'm good enough. I'll never feel like I'm done learning. There's so many different animals and species and things to explore and try. Giving a second life or sometimes a third life to animals, paying them like some homage, some honor to, show them in a realistic way.
Hi, my name is Nanny. I'm a 5th-year veteran and one of the team captains on the Warriors dance team. Come on in. These are the rings from back-to-back championships. In addition to the team members getting their rings after a championship, employees such as ourselves, like part-timers, we get rings as well. I feel like it became more difficult after Warriors started winning championships just because it's like the place to be. When I first tried out, it was like almost 200 girls, and it's such an intense process. I remember it was 3 months long. Yeah, definitely very competitive. Dance is such an integral part of my identity just because I've been doing it since I was 7.5. Just trying to figure out how I would continue it after college. And that's when I decided to join the Warriors dance team. The Warriors, they were doing so well, I just decided to try out an audition for the team. 4 years later, now we're here.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1.
We really are thoughtful about all of our teams, but especially this squad because they're at a majority of the games. And so we're looking for great dancers, but most importantly, great character. The audition process is a little bit longer. They learn a jazz routine as the first cut to the second cut, which is hip hop, because we do a variety of styles when they dance for the Warriors. And then from there, we take a group of dancers to the finals where they go through a week-long process. From interviews, which to me is the essential ingredient to picking a dancer, and then boot camp where they do workouts and fitness assessments, and then really kind of hone in on those routines and talk about the cleans and how to figure out how to dance in unison. We need to really focus in the next couple hours to make this a routine that's respectable on court. But if some of you can't hang, then we'll just dwindle down.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Today is Monday and we're currently at the Warriors rehearsal facility practicing and cleaning one of our routines. We'll be game setting this dance on Wednesday, which we'll be performing on Thursday at the game. Cleaning, it could be tedious just because it's slow moving. What brings me through cleaning is just knowing the end product is gonna look flawless.
3, 4.
Cleaning is basically going over every single A count. So say my arm is starting from my shoulder and we're punching down. She wants to know the level and where you're ending that movement. From beginning to end, that's how we're cleaning, from movement to movement.
5, 6, 7, 8, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Try to get, are you guys doing the 5?
5, 6, 7, 8. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Cool. Can we now go full out? It looks clean, so now give me some energy and life. Here we go.
5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
The only time I have to myself is probably 30 minutes after work, and then maybe when I get home, which is around midnight.
I am very, very, very exhausted. We have some Korean style spicy chicken soup. Can't wait to eat. This is gonna be great.
In addition to being a Warriors dancer, I'm also a software developer. I was a biology major. I was basically studying to become a doctor. So I quickly realized that medicine's not for me, and I had to figure out a way to bring dance back into my life.
All I need is just a computer,
cold brew to basically jumpstart my mind. I got myself quick breakfast. Time to run in because I have about 2 minutes until my next meeting starts. This entails basically having to have really good time management. 15 minutes until my next meeting. Sneak peek into all of my makeup supply. Please don't judge my makeup skills. I'm a dancer, not a makeup artist. The most challenging part of being a Warriors dancer is definitely just keeping up with the schedule. So 6 hours is the minimum of creating a 1-minute dance. People only see the final product, but they definitely don't see all the hard work that goes into it.
7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All they see is the glitz and the glam, like the final product, but they don't see the amount of hours, the sweat, the tears that actually go into every single dance. Actually, the past few seasons, we've had a lot of injuries on the team. I injured my quadricep a few weeks ago to the point where I wasn't able to walk and I wasn't able to dance. I actually injured my neck as well to the point where my fingers were tingling. Painful. It does not feel good, but I know that it will help me maintain my body.
Have you ever had to tell a dancer that she's
That's not my favorite part, but yeah, it comes with the territory.
Is there a weight restriction to be on the team?
No. A way a dancer comes in is the way we want them to stay for the season. Just so it's fair, you know, we pick them based on what they showcase, how they show up at auditions, and when we select them, that's how we want them to maintain for the season.
Here you can help me pack for my game today, actually. The bracelet is very important. We wear it for every single game. Getting these bracelets are like a rite of passage that you officially join the Warriors dance team. Looks like I have a broken fan in here. They were very hard to dance with. If you like hold on to them too tight, you would break it. If you like go like that too hard, you would break it. With adrenaline, it was very hard to control like the amount of strength we were putting into it, so we broke a lot of fans. It ended with like my leg in the air. Like I remember I had to do like a turnaround and then like pose with my leg up and like hold that pose, which was a little bit stressful. But thankfully my previous dance training, like all we did were leg holds for minutes and days, so thankfully trained to do that. Something that I do miss dancing with though are palms. Especially during intros when all the fireworks and the pyros going off. Something that I've experienced in the past when I first joined the team would be someone like touching my bottom, and it was very uncomfortable because I was like, that is not something for you. Like, this is my body, you shouldn't be crossing any boundaries or lines. Actually, the moment we stepped out of the locker room, we would just have our hands behind our backs, so it would be completely covering our bottoms. So it's something that we have experienced like as a team. We'd have like precautionary measures. Interns at events who would make sure that no one would be out of line, because we wanted to really rebrand ourselves as dancers rather than as cheerleaders. We took away the palms this year. Sweet. Done packing, now I'm game day ready. I'm driving into the Chase Center. Yay, now I'm here. The valet is coming out. Gonna give me a ticket and it's time to go in. Do you like my lipstick? So I don't have to spend any of my money in terms of supporting my job. They pay for us hourly. They give us funds in order to have our nails done, to get a gym membership. Yeah, we get food every time. It's pretty good. Sometimes pizza, sometimes chicken. Okay, bye bye, sweet. Okay, that smells good for the face.
1, 2, 3, 4, go, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go.
So God, please just unleash all the anxiety that we're experiencing right now and just let us remember why we love to do this.
Number
off of each other's energy is indescribable. Dancing's all about like staying into character, having that intention, and just like absolutely laying it all on the floor. I feel like the best part about being out there is just like yelling on the court, hey, like let's get it, let's go. And just like feeding off of that energy and knowing that everyone's like on the same page, that we're all here together. I love that feeling so much.
What? This happens every time. I've gone through like 3 pairs of pants.